Chapter 1362. Gu Qingshan leapt down into the depths of the cave. The intense wind struck the dragon rider armor, giving off a long woo-woo-woo sound. This was the tyrannical power of the dark tide, capable of directly ripping a normal professionist to shreds. Fortunately, the dragon rider armor was extremely sturdy and had a high resistance against elemental energy, so Gu Qingshan didn't need to worry about resisting the storm manifested from the dark tide. He concealed his presence and continued to descend according to the direction marked on the report. That insect's ability is strip. Fortunately, there's only one of it, so all of you enter my thought sea and don't expose that I'm a sword cultivator. I'm going to cripple its ability first. He sent his voice to the four swords. The four swords hid themselves in his thought sea. Gu Qingshan continued to descend. Very quickly, he smelled a foul stench. Along the way, numerous holes appeared on the walls of the cave. These were the traces left behind by the brain-eater demon bug. Its nest was getting closer. Gu Qingshan slowly slowed down his descent and formed a hand seal. The power of a lightning-type spell appeared in his hand. Although he wasn't very proficient in it, with his cultivation, he could easily cast a few spells. At the very next moment, Gu Qingshan's expression changed a bit. Within his inner sight, a rapidly approaching blurred figure appeared. Gu Qingshan abruptly dodged to the side. The blurred figure flew past where he originally stood and struck the black wall. Ting! A sharp spike pierced deep into the wall. Not too far away, a colorful soft-bodied insect appeared in Gu Qingshan's vision. The brain-eater demon bug. It nodded towards Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan was surprised. Is it greeting me? All of a sudden, he noticed that the lightning element on his hand seal had completely disappeared. A line of combat notification appeared on the war god UI frowny face. You've received the strip technique. Your magic type abilities have been stripped, temporarily unable to be used until the target dies. Attention! A brain-eater demon bug can only use deprivation on a single target. So nodding was the release of a spell. The brain-eater demon bug's body squirmed as droplets of foul-smelling liquid were secreted out, which then elongated into the shape of spike. 7 to 8 shadows flashed and stabbed at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan didn't dare to touch this unknown venom, so she immediately used ground shrink and disappeared. The venomous thorns pierced into the black cliff, producing a tinkling sound. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The cliff was gradually corroded. Gu Qingshan raised an eyebrow. The cliff was the skeleton of the ancient monster, and its hardness was extraordinary. When it comes to the power of corrosion, I actually have it too, Gu Qingshan muttered as she took out a dark green longbow. The Dreamscape Soul Armament, the Bow of Fallen Souls. The next moment, Gu Qingshan found that she had completely forgotten how to draw the bow. How could this be? He stared at the bow in his hand, but he didn't know how to use it. According to the information, a brain-eater demon bug can only seal a single ability. Could it be? Gu Qingshan turned around and saw that a new brain-eater demon bug had appeared next to the first one. This new brain-eater demon bug was nodding at him. So there were two brain-eater demon bugs. This was completely different from the information he received. The war god UI also gave him a timely reminder. Frowny face, the second brain-eater demon bug, has taken away your ability to fight with a bow in the blink of an eye. Gu Qingshan put the bow away and clenched her hand into a fist. Ethereal, a grand mountain. Arg, dash, he roared and swung his fist, only to find that he couldn't throw it no matter how hard he tried. A line of glowing text quickly appeared in front of his eyes. Frowny face, the third brain-eater demon bug, has taken away your ability to fight with a fist. At the same time, another colorful brain-eater demon bug appeared in front of Gu Qingshan. It was nodding at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan's heart slowly sank. The information wasn't right. Or rather, there was a major error in the information. At the very next moment, countless poisonous stingers shot out from the three brain-eater demon bugs' bodies. Gu Qingshan's figure flashed, once again using ground shrink to get away. He took out the badge and quickly said, "Qin, there are 3. No, 4 brain-eater demon bugs here." "What?" Qin exclaimed in shock. A wave of noise. "Just hold on for a bit, I'll immediately request for reinforcements," she hurriedly said. Gu Qingshan put the badge away and looked at the 4 brain-eater demon bugs in front of her. No wonder all the hitmen she sent earlier died. 4 brain-eater demon bugs with 4 different fighting styles. A normal person wouldn't even be able to fight back and would have already been killed. On the other side, the 4th brain-eater demon bug stared at Gu Qingshan and silently waited. Waiting to see if he could still do anything else. On the other hand, the other 3 brain-eater demon bugs were already heading towards Gu Qingshan. "Ha, so they know how to cooperate," Gu Qingshan muttered and reached his hand into the void of space. The 6 Paths Great Mountain sword appeared in his hand. As soon as the sword appeared, the 4th brain-eater demon bug nodded. But how could it move as fast as Gu Qingshan? The sword turned into a cold gleam that cut through the void of space and unleashed a torrential flood of sword phantoms. Secret art, great torrent! This strike was so fast that the 4th brain-eater demon bug didn't even have time to use deprivation before it had already been executed. The overwhelming wave of sword phantoms engulfed the 3 brain-eater demon bugs, then the 4th brain-eater demon bug was caught within. At the very last moment, the brain-eater demon bug finally completed deprivation. Gu Qingshan's fighting style with the sword was also sealed. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The tidal wave of sword phantoms surged like a stampede of horses, flowing down the cliff like a majestic waterfall. As Gu Qingshan put her sword away, she felt even more alarmed. Elemental spells, fist techniques, archery, and swordsmanship were all taken away without any signs of being unsealed. In other words, none of the 4 brain-eater demon bugs died. Strange, this is only a 3+ assassination mission. Why were the brain-eater demon bugs able to stop my sword? In her spirit sense, the shadow of death was getting closer and closer, causing her to feel suffocated. "I can't wait any longer." Gu Qingshan immediately activated the world technique in her eye. Mystery Eye Technique, Fog Realm Descent. The fog descended from the void of space and enveloped Gu Qingshan. At the very last moment before she left, Gu Qingshan saw a strange creature. That creature looked like a human, but had 6 sharp legs, a muscular body, and a head full of long, horn-like hair. This creature was standing in front of the 4 brain-eater demon bugs, completely stopping the sword phantoms. So it was it that stopped my full power attack. What is it? It looks like an evil creature, a thought flashed through Gu Qingshan's mind. A second later, he disappeared. Void City. The Hitman Guild. A few people had gathered in front of the 7th warp gate. So there were a total of 4 brain-eater demon bugs. No wonder someone died last time, a long-haired man with a pair of blades on his back commented. Qin hurriedly said, "Sir, please hurry and save him. The hitman codenamed Fear Fiend King is most likely in grave danger," the long-haired man casually replied. "It's fine, he's an hitman that the old man personally gave him a codename. How could he die just like that?" "You." Qin's face flushed red. "What about me? A mere staff member like you wants to order me around?" The long-haired man narrowed his eyes. Gu Qingshan's voice suddenly resounded. "There's no need to trouble a responsible little girl like me." He appeared from the fog and pulled Qin behind him. The long-haired man looked at him in surprise. Everyone was looking at Gu Qingshan. Because his body was glowing with 4 faint layers of colorful light, if one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't be able to notice it. The long-haired man said, "Ah? So he didn't die even after being hit by 4 layers of deprivation. Seems like I'll be able to keep my points." Gu Qingshan didn't understand, so she turned to Qin. Qin stuttered. "Fear Fiend King, the one standing in front of you is Sir Poison Bee, an unlivable rank hitman. He was the one who provided the information regarding the brain-eater demon bugs. This time, Gu Qingshan understood. Poison Bee, your information was wrong, it almost got me killed, Gu Qingshan said. It was just a small mistake, didn't you return alive? Poison Bee casually replied. Gu Qingshan's killing intent surged and grabbed the twin swords heaven and earth. Qin held him down and begged. Please don't do that, hitmen can't kill each other, otherwise the entire guild will hunt you down. Poison Bee crossed his arms. Did you hear that? Brat, you can only blame your bad luck. Gu Qingshan slowly sheathed her swords and regained her calm. There were 4 brain-eater demon bugs on the other side. They weren't something I could deal with. Seems like you also ran away in fear of being found out, so you made up a piece of information to exchange for points. Or you had a grudge against the dead hitman from before, so you purposefully made up a fake piece of information and made him accept this mission, Gu Qingshan casually said. Poison Bee abruptly turned around. His sharp gaze fell on Gu Qingshan. Did he find out about my matter? No, that can't be. He only joined the guild yesterday, and he has nothing to do with the dead hitman. There's no way he would know that much. Then, there's only one explanation for this. This fear-fiend King Guy's mind works way too quickly. Youngster, think before you speak. This Poison Bee has never run away in fear, and I don't care to harm anyone, he casually said. Hearing that, Gu Qingshan silently recalled the incident with the brain-eater demon bugs. Poison Bee's gaze fell on the 4 layers of light around Gu Qingshan's body and pondered. Gu Qingshan glanced at him, then abruptly asked, Unlivable hitman Poison Bee, do you think you can deal with 4 brain-eater demon bugs? Poison Bee's eyes flickered a bit, then suddenly smirked. 4 brain-eater demon bugs are also worth 4 points. Very well, I'll show you the power of an unlivable hitman. He walked in front of the 7th warp gate and ordered, Prepare the warp for this great one. This great one is going to chop up some vegetables. The staff quickly got to work and activated the warp gate. Poison Bee drew his blade and pointed it at Gu Qingshan. You'll soon find out, in the face of absolute power, information isn't that important, a flash of light. He was warped away. Pfft! Suddenly, a burst of laughter could be heard. At some unknown point, Melody was already standing behind everyone. There were a few other assassins who came with her. I heard that 4 brain-eater demon bugs had already used up their abilities. I didn't think Poison Bee would get them first, someone regretfully said. I know, that's a good material. 4 brain-eater demon bugs that have lost their abilities are already worth my time. Poison Bee sure is fast, the hitmen discussed among themselves. Melody looked at Gu Qingshan and mocked. Idiot, the brain-eater demon bugs can only use deprivation on a single target. Since you've been hit with 4 layers of deprivation, Poison Bee will be able to directly harvest those 4 brain-eater demon bugs this time. There's no need to worry about this deprivation ability, is that so? His wrong information killed a person and almost killed me. Such a person shouldn't have such a good ending, Gu Qingshan casually said. As soon as she said that, a card in a staff member's hand suddenly turned black. The staff member shouted in shock, Sir Poison Bee is dead. Everyone was shocked. What's going on? Weren't there only 4 brain-eater demon bugs? Melody looked at Gu Qingshan and asked. Gu Qingshan replied, There were indeed only 4 brain-eater demon bugs that I fought against. I'm willing to take a lie detector test to prove my innocence, but what? Someone couldn't help but ask. Gu Qingshan displayed a sincere expression, then hesitantly said, My previous battle caused quite a commotion, perhaps something else was attracted to it. Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 1363. There were indeed 4 brain-eater demon bugs inside the Void Storm Cavern. Poison Bee already knew this, and he also saw the 4 layers of deprivation on Gu Qingshan's body. The brain-eater demon bugs could only use this ability on a single person. In other words, now was the best time to kill the 4 demon bugs. So Poison Bee went. He was an unlivable rank hitman, so he was very confident in his abilities. He was dead. In front of the seventh warp gate, the hitmen stared at the jet-black card in the staff member's hand, speechless. This was a life and death detection card, capable of sensing the life force of the person carrying out the mission. The card was originally pure white. Once it turned black, it represented death. An unlivable rank hitman was already an extremely powerful existence. Each of them represented the true strength of the Hitman Guild. The situation is very serious. I have to report this to the guild right away, Qin said with a pale expression. She glanced at Gu Qingshan and sent her voice. It will be a titled rank hitman, be careful. Gu Qingshan nodded. Qin waved her hand, summoning a row of names from the void of space. Qin pointed at a certain name and said, Intelligence Team Leader, I'm Qin. Something happened here. First came a female scream and laughter, followed by a lazy male voice. What's the situation? Qin blushed a bit, then braced herself and said, The 3+ mission, the Brain Eater Demon Bug mission, has already lost 2 sealed hitmen and 1 unlivable hitman. Only 1 sealed hitman managed to escape by luck. The voice on the other side suddenly became louder. What? The void of space flashed. A topless black-haired man appeared in front of the 7th warp gate. He was extremely beautiful, even a bit bewitching. His body wasn't too muscular, but it was well proportioned. He wore a pair of black pants, black leather shoes, as well as a slender rapier on his waist. When he appeared, he was holding a bottle of liquor in one hand, a verdant stalk of grass in the corner of his mouth, and a few faint lip marks on his cheeks. Based on his appearance and the woman's laughter just now, it was obvious that he was up to no good and had rushed over after receiving the news. The pretty man realized that everyone was looking at him, so he took out a black wide-brimmed hat and put it on his head, pressing it down to cover the kiss marks on his face. Tell me the details, he said. Yes, Sir Crow, Qin respectfully replied. She began to describe the entire process. After listening for a while, the pretty boy turned to look at Gu Qingshan. To be able to escape from the 4th stage of deprivation. Someone, let me take a look at the video recording from before, he said. A staff member tossed out a card. The card turned into a projection in midair, showing the scene of Gu Qingshan accepting the mission and leaving. Then, Jean received a call for help, and Poison Bee rushed over. Venomous Bee was not in a hurry to save Qin. Instead, he started a verbal conflict with Qin. As the mist appeared, Gu Qingshan appeared. The two of them were talking. Poison Bee left. Dead. The pretty boy slightly nodded, then looked at Gu Qingshan. You have a mystery spatial technique, no wonder you were able to escape. Now I understand why the old man personally gave you a codename. He drew the thin rapier at his waist and muttered. The Void Storm Cavern, the Brain Eater Demon Bug should be nearby. I'll go take a look. Saying so, he walked towards the warp gate. You don't need to go, Gu Qingshan abruptly said. Having reached Sumer Lord Realm, and having to deal with monsters who were countless times stronger than he was, Gu Qingshan's insight had already been honed. He only needed a single glance to know how powerful this pretty boy was. None of the hitmen here were as strong as this pretty boy. But compared to the monster that appeared in the Void Storm Cavern, both the pretty boy and Gu Qingshan were still far from being able to match up to him. There would only be a single outcome if they went. Death. This wasn't just his insight, this was the feeling and perception that Gu Qingshan had trained while facing his enemies. Of course, Gu Qingshan was willing to let Poison Bee die, but he wasn't willing to harm unrelated people. Especially since he could already see that outcome. The pretty boy's body stopped. Everyone's gaze became subtle. As soon as Gu Qingshan said that, everyone had already guessed that he was feeling guilty. Perhaps he was the one who set up Poison Bee. Otherwise, why didn't he let Sir Crow investigate the scene? Sure enough, the Fear Fiend is still a fiend that likes to harm people. I don't need to go, why? The pretty boy turned around and stared at Gu Qingshan. 4 demon bugs, it's too dangerous, Gu Qingshan replied. You think I'd be afraid of those things? The pretty boy quickly asked. Not really, when I was fighting them, I felt a bit panicked, Gu Qingshan slowly replied. Panicked because of these 4 insects? No, I'm guessing it's something else. The pretty boy was a bit surprised, thought for a bit, then asked. In battle, have you always trusted this natural instinct of yours? It's not natural, it's trained, Gu Qingshan replied. How do you train? I've stayed at the edge of death too many times, so I've gotten used to this instinct. So that's how it is. This might sound a bit strange, but coincidentally, I'm also an expert in communicating with death. The pretty boy wielded his rapier and circled around Gu Qingshan. The presence of death, in my name, please let me see your bond with this person, he muttered. A black shadow flew out from the pretty boy's body, touched Gu Qingshan's body, then turned into a lingering halo of light. The black halo enveloped Gu Qingshan's body for a long time, unwilling to leave. You are the feeder of the law of death. The law is always waiting for you to create death, the pretty boy muttered. He put his rapier away, casually took out 2 tall glasses from the void of space, filled them up, then gave one to Gu Qingshan while holding the other himself. Cheers, the pretty boy declared. For what? Gu Qingshan asked. The pretty boy lowered his voice and whispered, I've always found poison be an eyesore, but the guild strictly forbids infighting. How lucky! He died as soon as he stepped out today, although this man called Crow had lowered his voice. Who here was a normal person? Everyone heard his words loud and clear. Ahahaha, an assassin like Poison Bee is dead. What a great loss to our Hitman Guild. The pretty boy laughed loudly, then downed the glass in one gulp. Everyone was speechless. Gu Qingshan raised the glass and took a sip. This liquor is quite good. He raised the glass again and downed it. Qin hurriedly asked, Sir Crow, how exactly are we going to deal with this? The pretty boy stopped laughing and replied, I'm guessing that the person who issued the mission will soon find out about our situation here. If he's willing to increase the price, we'll continue to post this mission, but adjust it to a level that only titled hitmen can accept. But remember, no one is allowed to accept this mission. That Poison Bee serves him right for being unlucky. Understood. After giving his orders, the pretty boy patted Gu Qingshan's shoulder and said, Let's have a drink another day. All right, Gu Qingshan replied. The pretty boy's figure disappeared into the void of space, disappearing without a trace. This matter was concluded. Seeing that there was nothing else to do, the hitmen slowly dispersed. Melody glanced at Gu Qingshan with a complicated expression and muttered, Fiend, it was you who killed Poison Bee. Gu Qingshan didn't deny it and asked, Do you want to avenge him? Melody shook his head. I won't avenge him, but if I run into you during a large-scale joint guild mission, no hitman would trust you again. They have that right, and I believe that Crow isn't one of them, Gu Qingshan replied. Melody scoffed, turned around, and left. Gu Qingshan waited for a while longer until all the hitmen had left before he asked, Qin, the reason why I failed this mission was because I received incorrect information. Just look, even a powerful hitman like Poison Bee died. I was already lucky enough to escape, so... He smiled and asked, Can this failure be discounted? Qin shook her head. I'm sorry, a failure is a failure. If you want to advance to unsolvable rank, you'll have to complete 5 more consecutive 3-point missions. Seeing the disappointed expression on Gu Qingshan's face, she added. However, the points you earned from the previous missions won't be deducted. You can use them to exchange for various items. Then give me more missions, Gu Qingshan said. That's impossible. Take a look at yourself, Qin pointed around his body. Gu Qingshan looked around, only to see that the 4 layers of deprived power were still present, giving off a colorful glow. When will this thing disappear? Gu Qingshan asked. If those 4 brain-eater demon bugs don't retract their abilities, it'll take at least a day, Qin replied. Her expression suddenly turned serious. You've now lost all 4 of your combat abilities. Make sure to be careful and don't leave the guild, Gu Qingshan sighed. I originally wanted to advance as soon as possible so that I could accept the Wraith Realm mission, but it seems I'll have to wait for another day. Alright, I'll go back to the lounge to sleep for the day. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. As Gu Qingshan was about to leave, he suddenly heard Qin exclaim in surprise. What is it? Gu Qingshan asked. It's nothing. For the previous Brain Eater Demon Bug mission, I was about to contact the client to ask if they wanted to increase the price. But the client didn't wait for me to say anything and directly increased the reward by 30 times, Qin said in confusion. 30 times, Gu Qingshan repeated. That's right, 30 times, just enough to hire a titled hitman. Seems like I'll have to increase this mission's rank to 10 right away. While saying so, Qin began to operate the mission UI in the void of space. Level 10 to 12 missions were the missions that a titled hitman could accept. After staying silent for a bit, Gu Qingshan turned around and quickly left. He didn't return to the lounge and instead went straight to the intelligence department. I want to exchange some information, he told the staff. After verifying his badge, the staff gave him a scepter and led him into a small room. You only need to use telepathy to transmit the information you want to the scepter. It will respond accordingly, the staff explained. Thank you, Gu Qingshan said. The staff closed the door behind him and left. Gu Qingshan held the scepter, silently thinking about the appearance of the monster in the Void Storm Cavern. 6 long, sharp legs, a muscular body, a head full of long, horn-like hair, humanoid appearance. Tell me, what is this? Gu Qingshan sent telepathy to the scepter. Very quickly, a thought was transmitted from the scepter. Frowny face. This information can only be viewed with the following conditions. Titled Hitman, 300 points, Guild Master's permission, Fear Fiend King. You do not have the authority to receive this information. Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 1364. What a high requirement! Gu Qingshan silently sighed. This meant 2 things. Firstly, that monster's background definitely isn't simple, not something a normal person could understand. Secondly, Crow is truly a smart person. An hitman of his level would never treat a mission lightly, so he must have already learned everything about the Void Storm Caverns before coming here. In other words, Crow most likely knows what that monster is. But he didn't know that monster would appear, so he prepared to take a look. As soon as I reminded him, Crow immediately became cautious. His reaction was very fast, and he immediately began to examine his own judgment. After that, he immediately stopped going and instead, he invited himself for a drink. This means, once Crow runs into that monster, he would only be able to die. Crow himself understood this very well. So he left without any hesitation, also erasing the matter of Poison Bee's death, as thanks for Gu Qingshan's warning. Gu Qingshan was a bit disinterested. Truthfully, the Hitman Guild's matters are secondary. The most important thing right now is to find a way to infiltrate the Wraith Realm. At this point, a new thought came from the Scepter. Frowny face. Is there anything else you want to know about the Voidstorm Caverns? No need. Do you have any information about the Wraith Realm? Yes, information about the Wraith Realm is divided into 4 categories. Basic information is worth 4 points, medium information is worth 10 points, high information is worth 50 points, and top secret information is worth 100 points. So expensive, but I can't fight right now, nor can I accept any missions. Gu Qingshan stood up and left the room. He headed straight for the Hitman Guild's lounge, then stopped halfway. TCH. With how precious time is, it's not a good idea to just waste it like this. After a bit of hesitation, Gu Qingshan turned around and headed for the Hitman Guild's main hall. Gongzi, you're going out? Shanu silently asked. This place is a business city recognized by various monsters and races within the space vortex, so it must be incredibly prosperous. I want to try and gather some information about the Wraith Realm, Gu Qingshan replied. But Gongzi's fighting style has been taken away, wouldn't that be too dangerous? Shanu worriedly asked. It's fine, it's already dark. I can use my Sumer thaumaturgy, Gu Qingshan replied. Luo Bingli's voice abruptly came. Don't be careless. Even if you can turn into an orange cat, if you run into a sudden battle, you won't be able to use your sword to block, and if you're caught in the crossfire, it'll be a huge problem," the Earth Sword also agreed. "That's right, there are too many powerful fellows in this Void City, you won't be able to fight for a day, so it's best to be careful," the Chao Yin sword buzzed. Gu Qingshan said helplessly, "But I don't want to go back to sleep." "Gongzi, let me think of a way to temporarily stay close to you and protect you," Shanu suggested. "You've been following me. Isn't that enough?" Gu Qingshan asked curiously. "Safety first," the four swords said in unison. After a short while, the two orange cats left the Hitman Guild. Under the shroud of night, no one was able to notice these two orange cats. Only their triumphant woo-woo noises could be heard occasionally from the void of space. Orange Sovereign, ghostly shadow of night, flawless jade. Gu Qingshan and Shanu turned into orange cats, quickly traversed the streets one after the other, and climbed up a tall building. As far as the eye could see, the entire city was bustling with activity, as if it was a city that never sleeps. The iron curtain-like city walls stood at the very end of the sky. Occasionally, giant airships would approach it to transport various goods. Sometimes it wasn't just airships. Gu Qingshan saw a giant claw the size of a mountain carefully placing a few items on top of the city walls. Fortunately, the human form was widely recognized as the best way to communicate, so every race and void monster would silently abide by this rule when doing business with each other. Otherwise, this city would already be filled with strange and unusual creatures. There might even be some monsters that couldn't enter this world because their true forms were too large. A few moments later, the city abruptly became bright. A group of angels singing a hymn used iron chains to tie up a black figure, then flew straight up into the sky and disappeared into the night. Under the illumination of the holy light, the two cats couldn't help but stare blankly. What the hell? So there are actually creatures like angels outside of the 900 million world layers. They're probably not a species brought over from a parallel world by the bygone-era humans, and their potential wasn't restricted by the divine race during the creation of the world. How strong are they? Gu Qingshan noticed that although various battles often broke out in the city, no one dared to provoke the angels as they appeared and left. The entire void city remained silent. After a while, the bustling city once again returned to its original state. The two cats also regained their senses. "Meow, meow, meow?" Shanu asked. Gu Qingshan looked around in the darkness, then pointed his paw at a certain direction. "Meow, meow, meow," he said. "Meow," Shanu nodded. The two cats leapt into the air, quickly sprinting through the air, then quickly landed on a particularly lively street. Gu Qingshan found the bar with great familiarity and stealthily led the cat there. This was the place where Gu Qingshan stayed for a short while when he first arrived at Void City. He asked around here for a bit of information and even saw a Wraith Realm individual. But at the time, he had only just arrived and didn't know anything, so the most important thing to consider was his identity, so he didn't pay much attention to that Wraith Realm individual. At this point, the bar still didn't have a lot of customers. Gu Qingshan and Shanu crouched down in a corner of the bar, observing the few customers. There weren't many customers, and quite a few of them were clearly void monsters. Because while they could take human form, they either had extra arms or extra heads. As long as they had extra limbs, they would basically be void monsters, as they weren't used to the feeling of having 2 hands and 2 feet. As for the void race, they could transform into human form, leaving behind only some special racial characteristic. For example, the elemental elf race's figure was very slim, and there was a faint elemental light following them. The two orange cats looked around and found that there were 5 void monsters, 3 of them were foreign races, and only a young girl who seemed to be human. However, this young girl was drunk. She was lying on the table with her face in her arms. It was impossible to see if there was anything special about her face. The orange cat looked at the girl, a bit doubtful. However, the other party seemed to be asleep and did not move. The orange cat pulled his gaze back and silently listened to the chatter of the customers. The goods are finally ready. Come, let's have a toast. Su 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 come. Do you have any news about the monster in the east? If there is, I'll pay 300 void gold coins. Give me today's newspaper, mate. What? That world was eaten by the void monster? Which monster was it? Tell me about it. Maybe it's someone I know. At this point, the bar's door was pushed open. A woman with a pair of horns on her head and revealing clothes walked up to the bar counter with a robust man. Give me a glass of flame desire. The woman blew into the robust man's ear and said, 2 glasses, more after that. I have money. The robust man generously tossed out a few coins. The bartender quickly served them their drinks. The woman bit the robust man's ear and whispered, Which race are you exactly? The robust man smirked and replied, You'll know when it's nighttime. In a corner of the bar, one of the orange cats appeared confused and looked at the other orange cat. Gongzi, why would she know the other party's race when it's nighttime? The other orange cat tried his best to maintain a cold expression and solemnly sent his voice. Their killing intent is very heavy, so they'll fight tonight. Hearing that, the orange cat from before finally realized. All of a sudden, laughter resounded in the bar. Why wait until nighttime? Let me tell you, one of you is a human from the Wraith Realm who wants to capture a true evil creature to report back to the Wraith Realm, while the other is a fiendess who had just escaped from the Angel's search. She's still in a state of shock, but she took the opportunity to be afflicted with a Wraith talisman, so she'll most likely be captured without a fight. Everyone turned to look, only to see a drunken girl lying on the table with a few empty bottles of liquor in front of her. She was the one who spoke just now. She had only just lifted her head, lightly rubbing her sleepy eyes. Evildoer, you dare to interfere in my business. Saying so, as soon as the robust man's killing intent rose, someone lightly tapped his shoulder. The bartender stood behind the bar counter and pulled his hand back. While wiping the table, the bartender casually said, Sir, please do not fight in this bar, otherwise no one will be able to protect you. The robust man endured for a while, then reluctantly replied, Of course I know that. The fiendess next to him had already silently moved away from him, taking out 5 gold coins from her chest pocket and placing them on the bar counter. Give me another glass, she said. Very well, what would you like to drink? The bartender asked. Baptism. Ah, that glass of liquor can indeed dispel the curse on your body, but you don't have enough money. I don't have enough money. Can I buy it on credit? The fiendess begged. I'm sorry, I can't, the bartender regretfully replied. The fiendess' body began to tremble. The wraith's curse had begun to take effect. In a corner, an orange cat looked at another orange cat. The orange cat shook his head, then focused his gaze on the drunken girl with a nostalgic expression. Time has passed so quickly, it really has been a long time since we last met. I should be thanking her. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't have been able to come into contact with the 900 million world layers and get to know people like Bali and Meow. I wouldn't have improved so quickly. The girl muttered something and drew a card from the void of space. The fiendess over there, listen carefully. I have a lot of cards that can dispel curses. Give me your coins, I'll dispel it for you. Saying so, the girl slowly sat up straight. She showed the card to the fiendess. This card deck, so it was you. The fiendess was overjoyed, hurriedly rushed in front of her with the coins and knelt down. Your Grace, I beg you, please save me. The girl tossed the card to the fiendess and took the coins. Don't worry, I'm the type of person who hates seeing women being bullied by men the most. Buttercup stroked the fiendess' head and softly told her. Chapter 1365. The fiendess held the card like it was a precious treasure. A pure black light was drawn on the card, surrounded by people wearing priest robes, dancing and singing around the black light. The fiendess lightly placed the card on her forehead. The card then scattered into a cluster of black light that enveloped her. A few moments later, the black light disappeared. The fiendess was breathing heavily, kneeling on the ground, letting the faint chanting around her body. The horns on her head became longer and more curved, her skin became snow white, and a heavy shadow loomed behind her back. The fiendess slowly stood up, giving off an indescribable sense of allure. "Thank you, madam." The fiendess bowed to Buttercup and joyfully thanked her. Not only was the hex dispelled, but she also seemed to be completely different from before. "No need to be so polite, you were already about to advance." My card simply pushed the time forward a bit. While saying that, Buttercup signaled the fiendess with her eyes. "Why aren't you leaving?" The fiendess understood, bowed again, and hurriedly left the bar. The robust man wanted to follow her, but on the way, he accidentally tripped and fell. He struggled for a long while before he managed to stand up. "It's you. You dare to interfere with our Wraith Realm's matters again and again." The robust man glared at Buttercup. Buttercup didn't look at him, instead poured herself a glass of liquor and slowly sipped it like nothing had happened. The robust man retreated to one side, took out a talisman, and muttered, "Mission failed because someone tried to stop me." "That's right, I'm at the bar, someone saved that fiendess from the bar." The talisman turned into a streak of flame and flew out of the bar. At this point, not only did the other customers in the bar not leave, they all appeared to be waiting for a good show. Not too long later, the bar's door was pushed open. In the cold wind, several people wearing yiksha masks entered the bar. "Madam," the robust man hurriedly came forward. "Who stopped you?" the leader of the group asked. The robust man pointed at Buttercup. As the man looked at Buttercup, his cold, killing intent slowly disappeared. He stood where he was without saying a word, as if he had fallen into an embarrassing predicament. Buttercup smiled silently and said, "What? The deal hasn't been completed yet, and you're already planning to attack us?" Hearing this, the man finally moved his feet and walked in front of Buttercup. He took off the yiksha mask, revealing an old face full of wrinkles. He said respectfully, "Forgive me for my offense, I naturally wouldn't dare to offend you, Lady Di. It's just that this is my subordinate's first time coming to Void City for business. He had eyes but failed to see, please forgive him, Lady Di." "Let's go. Just don't disturb my drinking," Buttercup said. "Understood. We'll go now." The old man bowed and left with his subordinates. A conflict was resolved without a trace. The guests saw that there was nothing to see, so they stopped paying attention to Buttercup and went to discuss their own matters. The bar regained its peace. In a corner, the two orange cats silently watched this. "Gongzi, Buttercup seems to be very powerful right now," Shanna whispered. "She's always been powerful, very powerful," Gu Qing-shan replied. "To be honest, I still owe her my life." Back then, the Rakshasa world had already been completely taken over by another world, but neither I nor the White Fox knew about it. If I followed the White Fox to the Rakshasa world, I would have most likely died. Buttercup saved my life in exchange for me delivering flowers to Bali. It was because of this that I had the chance to come into contact with the 900 million world layers, get to know Bali and Meow, join the Justice Iron Fist Club, travel to Abul, and finally save Lola. Who would have thought that after so long, when I traveled through spacetime to go to the Wraith Realm, I would run into her again in a void city near the Wraith Realm. All of a sudden, Buttercup seemed to have sensed something as her drunken eyes suddenly opened wide. She looked at a corner of the bar, her gaze focused on the void of space. "Ah, I remember now, you're Gu Qing-shan. Why are you here?" Buttercup asked in surprise. Her actions once again drew the attention of the other customers. Even the bartenders behind the counter showed a curious look. Everyone looked towards the corner of the bar, some even using scrying technique. But they couldn't find anything. The corner of the bar was empty. Gu Qing-shan knew that Buttercup had sensed him, so after a bit of hesitation, He dispelled Orange Sovereign Transformation, and walked out from the corner of the bar. Shanu was still in orange cat form, sitting on his shoulder and cautiously observing their surroundings. Long time no see, Gu Qingshan smiled and said. Suppressed gasps of surprise resounded all around. So there really was someone in the corner. Buttercup observed Gu Qingshan and said, I've heard quite a bit about you recently, how are the others? Gu Qingshan's mind moved. Obviously, for the sake of caution, the other party didn't mention Bali and Meow's names in this kind of situation. This was to protect Bali and Meow. They're fine, but a lot has happened recently, so it's not a good place to talk about it, Gu Qingshan replied. Buttercup stood up and happily said, It really has been a long time, come, let's go to my place, we can talk while drinking, I remember you're quite a good drinker. Ah, then I'll have to trouble you, Gu Qingshan smiled. With Buttercup walking in front and Gu Qingshan following behind, the two of them left the bar. They passed through several streets, made several turns, and finally arrived at a residential area. It's over there, Buttercup pointed in front of her and said. Gu Qingshan looked over, only to see a small house made of red bricks on the other side of the street, surrounded by a wooden fence with a bunch of fresh flowers planted inside. Several large trees surrounded the house, forming a green shade. From afar, among the rows of residential houses, this red brick house seemed exceptionally quiet. Not a bad place, Gu Qingshan praised. Is that so? How long have you been here? Buttercup asked. 2 days, Gu Qingshan replied. Hearing that, Buttercup let out an indecipherable heh-heh laugh. She brought Gu Qingshan across the street and arrived at the door of the house. A large gray dog was sleeping soundly in front of the house, not even bothering to look up when they passed by. As Gu Qingshan sat down in the living room, Buttercup went to brew some tea. A few moments later, the tea was ready. Thank you, Gu Qingshan received the tea, took a sip, then began to tell her what happened in the 900 million world layers. It took him about half an hour to tell her everything that happened. Halfway through, Buttercup asked a few questions, and Gu Qingshan told her everything she knew. Who would have thought so many things would happen, and here I thought the 900 million world layers was a safe and stable place, Buttercup sighed emotionally. Recalling what happened in the past, Gu Qingshan sincerely thanked her. Thank you for saving me back then and sending me to the 900 million world layers, Buttercup waved her hand dismissively. No need to be so formal, I saw everything you did in the suspended world and felt that you were worthy of my help, so I did what I did. I'm actually glad that you joined the Justice Iron Fist Club. Why did you leave the 900 million world layers and come to Void City? Gu Qingshan curiously asked. I know the 900 million world layers too well. The 900 million world layers is a man-made world with natural flaws in its laws. It's right next to the terrifying eternal abyss, as well as a place where apocalypses frequently occur. Occasionally, traces of order and chaos can be seen. All of them are related to a particularly powerful entity, so from the perspective of the many races of the void, not only is the 900 million world layers weak and impoverished, it's also filled with so many conflicts that no one is willing to go there. At this point, the smile on Buttercup's face dimmed a bit. She sighed and continued, My child and I have both become monsters, so I don't want him to grow up by killing and devouring living beings, so I brought him to the endless void to try my luck, to see if I can find a way to help him maintain a normal life. Gu Qingshan paused briefly, then pondered. I do have a weapon from the eternal abyss that can reverse time, would that be able to help you? Sensing his goodwill, Buttercup smiled and poured him another cup of tea, then slowly replied. It won't work. When I was giving birth, I was surrounded and attacked by those people, causing my child to only live for a few breaths worth of time after he was born. At the very last moment, I used an extremely secret method to turn my child into a demon, then linked my own soul to his soul, taking on half of his death for him to return to life. Even if you were to reverse time, my child and I would still be in the same state, nothing would change. Furthermore, he is already slowly growing up. Even if you were to make me return to the state I was when I was pregnant, he wouldn't be able to return either, and there's no telling what would happen at that point." Hearing that, Gu Qingshan couldn't help but go silent. Indeed, there are many times when returning to the past isn't the only way to solve everything. Some people's fate is already destined to be a tragedy from the very beginning, but there's no telling where they would end up. Gu Qingshan cautiously asked, "Where's your child? Why can't I see him?" Buttercup replied, "He's at school, they're boarding students, they only come back on the weekends." Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised, then relaxed. He couldn't help but sigh in relief, then took a sip from his cup of tea. Observing his reaction, Buttercup smiled. Gu Qingshan leaned back on his chair and casually said, "Void City accepts all existences, so you decided to settle down here?" "That's right, we're living quite well right now." Buttercup raised her cup of tea with a bright look in her eyes. "Ah, right, I'm confident that my concealment technique is quite good. Just now at the bar, how did you notice me?" Gu Qingshan curiously asked. "I left a mark on your body, so I sensed it," Buttercup replied. "So that's how it is." Gu Qingshan was surprised. Buttercup continued, "You're a meticulous person with a good eye for detail, not to mention your talents. I guessed that you might have a chance to leave the 900 million world layers and venture into the endless space vortex, so I left that mark on you." She reached her finger out and lightly tapped Gu Qingshan's chest. A cluster of light flickered briefly on Gu Qingshan's chest before disappearing again. Each person can only use this mark once in their life. If you're killed by something, this mark will allow your soul and flesh to return to Void City and resurrect, Buttercup muttered. "That's impressive. I really can't take it anymore. You're a woman with a child. You should have kept it for yourself." Gu Qingshan was moved. "It's fine, you're too young, too weak, you need it more than I do." Buttercup waved her hand dismissively. Gu Qingshan's heart felt heavy. In the end, Buttercup met up with Bali's group. To thank me, she gave me such a precious gift. Buttercup appeared nostalgic and replied, "Because my child and I were too unique, when we were about to leave the suspended world, I had already received an invitation, and the gift they gave me was this mark." Gu Qingshan asked, "Wait a minute, you're now part of an organization?" Buttercup answered matter-of-factly, "That's right. I'm currently a full-time teacher in the ominous Demon Tower, responsible for teaching soul-devouring and world-eaters. Right, my son is also studying there." Gu Qingshan. Chapter 1366. Inside the small house, the two of them were still chatting. That means, both Bali and Buttercup are on the temporal oasis, growing stronger using the order method while heading towards a certain point in the future? Buttercup asked. "That's right," Gu Qingshan replied. "You returned to the time when the war between the Eternal Abyss and the Wraith Realm had just begun, then came to Void City in order to do something to the Wraith Realm?" Buttercup asked. "That's right, there's no need to hide it from you. After all, it's already happened, and that temporal oasis is also moving forward in the river of time. No one can change it," Gu Qingshan replied. Buttercup appeared worried. So the Wraith Realm bastards want to go against the entire 900 million world layers. Bali and Meow would definitely fight against them, but the Wraith Realm is too powerful. This is going to be troublesome." Gu Qingshan nodded. He was very relaxed in front of Buttercup, not telling a single lie. She had even left a life-saving imprint on me, and she really did save me once, so there's no need to hide these things. Buttercup thought for a bit, then turned to evaluate Gu Qingshan and asked, "You've grown quite quickly, but to go against the Wraith Realm, I forgot to ask you, what identity are you using to stay in Void City?" "I'm a hitman in the Hitman Guild," Gu Qingshan replied. Buttercup scoffed. So you're from the Hitman Guild. That's a notorious organization." Gu Qingshan was speechless. "Your ominous Demon Tower's reputation isn't any better either." Seemingly knowing what he was thinking, Buttercup continued, Unfortunately, you're a pure human, otherwise I would have made you an assistant instructor in our ominous demon tower. That way, the Wraith Realm people wouldn't dare to mess with you. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but ask, how strong are you right now? There's not much to say. I have to attend classes every day and take care of my child, so I'm only a bit stronger than you, Buttercup replied. Gu Qingshan was still speechless. But this has nothing to do with strength. It's because the Wraith Realm is afraid of offending us, Buttercup continued. Gu Qingshan became even more curious and asked, why? Our Tower Master is the famous Lord Devourer of the Void, while our Vice Tower Master has a few fragments of the Wraith Realm, Buttercup replied. Gu Qingshan was startled. She murmured, could it be that you're threatening me with this? That's right, if the people of the Wraith Realm become disobedient, our Tower Master would consume those fragments of the world. That way, even if he were to show mercy one day and pull those fragments out, those fragments would still be stained with the power of eternal corruption, unable to be removed, Buttercup explained. What would happen if the Wraith Realm fused with such a world fragment? Gu Qingshan asked. Buttercup pridefully replied. The entire Wraith Realm is now reeking of the stench of feces, causing plagues and diseases to appear all over the world. It wouldn't be until 100 million years later that this situation would gradually disappear. Gu Qingshan was speechless again. This kind of restraining method is truly miraculous and shocking. From the Wraith Realm's perspective, a world filled with the stench of feces wants to conquer the entire samsara. Isn't that ridiculous? Who would listen to them? No wonder the old man in the bar couldn't do anything but apologize to Buttercup as soon as he saw her. Gu Qingshan placed her hand on her chest, sensing the mark. Now that I think about it, I've never been officially killed before. An out-of-body experience is a fake death. When I went to the Age of Old, Lin had been hiding with the 3 coins, ready to act at any moment to save me. The reason why I was able to survive so many battles until the very end was because death had stimulated all of my potential. This is the true shortcut for a warrior to quickly improve. Buttercup, I have a favor to ask of you, what is it? Please take this mark away, Gu Qingshan said. You don't want such a useful item? Buttercup asked in surprise. That's right, it was fine when I didn't know about its use before, but now that I do, from now on, whenever I fight someone, I'll always think about how I still have my life, so I'll lose all interest in fighting. Buttercup tilted her head to look at him for a while, then smiled. I didn't think you'd have some guts. She raised her hand, summoning a glowing butterfly between her fingers. Go, tell Baizu that my family is here. I want to give that to my family. Ask him if it's okay. The butterfly flapped its wings and quickly disappeared into the void of space. A few moments later, a block of wood appeared in front of Buttercup. A hoarse voice resounded from the block of wood. Your family? Is it your man? No, Buttercup replied. The voice loosened up a bit and gently spoke. If it's your family, then give him a certificate, no problem. Furthermore, Buttercup, I love you, my love is like the stars in the sky. Get lost, Buttercup cut the voice off. As far as the stars are from me, you'll be as far away from me as you are from me. She then slapped the block of wood, causing the other party to disappear without a trace. Alright, seems like I can give you a certificate. Buttercup casually took out a scroll, put it on the table, and pushed it in front of Gu Qingshan. I'll take the mark, but you keep this. What is this? Gu Qingshan wiped his cold sweat and asked. He looked at the scroll, only to see a line of text written in the void language. Frowny face, ominous demon towers, certificate of trouble. There was also a small line of text below to explain. Frowny face, the holder of this certificate is a student or family member of the ominous demon tower. If they cause any trouble in your place, please take care of them and provide them with warm encouragement. Reading this certificate, Gu Qingshan slowly realized what it meant. That's asking for a beating. But if this is a genuine attitude, then it's very telling. Just how strong did he have to be to get the other party to give him warm encouragement after causing trouble? Wait a minute. Did your Vice Tower Master keep a few fragments of every organization's world? He asked. You're very smart, Buttercup praised him. But some worlds are complete, there are no such things as fragments, Gu Qingshan replied. We will secretly take a few fragments from a complete world's origin and bring them back, Buttercup replied. The ominous demon tower's strength shouldn't be limited to just eating world fragments, and doing that sort of thing isn't enough to convince the masses, Gu Qingshan seriously said. Buttercup straightened her body and spoke with a serious expression. Of course, we are the top-level demons of the space vortex. Each of us was an existence that slaughtered countless worlds in the past. However, most of us are already old and have children, so we decided to band together and set up a shill in Void City. No, the ominous demon tower. You're not fighting anymore. Gu Qingshan asked. I'm already old, so my temper has gotten a lot better. I don't go around making enemies anymore. As long as the apocalypse isn't around, I'll just do some business and live a good life, Buttercup replied. She put her hand on Gu Qingshan's chest, took out a talisman, and put it into her sleeve. I'll take this talisman back and put it on my son. This way, I won't have to worry so much when he goes to the space vortex for practical lessons. Gu Qingshan's gaze flickered a bit. Lines of glowing text appeared in the void of space on the war god. You a frowny face, you've lost her talisman, as well as a chance to revive after death. Gu Qingshan silently sensed it for a bit, then muttered to herself. This feels right. Buttercup looked at him deeply, then muttered, At least I didn't misjudge you. Regarding your desire to deal with the Wraith Realm, I can tell you that simply entering their world is an extremely difficult task. I understand, Gu Qingshan replied. I'm preparing to raise my rank to unsolvable in the Hitman Guild, then accept a few assassination missions into the Wraith Realm. Buttercup shook her head. That won't work. The Hitman Guild wouldn't be able to penetrate the Wraith Realm's causality law defenses. They would only be able to infiltrate for an hour at most, after which they would be forcefully transported out. She sighed emotionally. The Wraith Realm is the most xenophobic world there is. I'm guessing that they're hiding some sort of shocking secret, which is why they don't allow anyone from the outside to enter their territory. Gu Qingshan froze. Only an hour? In that amount of time, I wouldn't be able to do anything other than complete an assassination mission. Do I have to think of something else? Buttercup stood up, paced back and forth in the room for a while, then suddenly sat down across from Gu Qingshan and solemnly asked, What do you want to do in the Wraith Realm? Get rid of them, Gu Qingshan replied. Buttercup stayed silent for a while, then waved her hand to set up a soundproof barrier in the room. She seemed to have made up her mind and said, Both Bali and Meow are my benefactors, and you're also a decent person. How about this? I have a way to help you infiltrate the Wraith Realm, but you'll need to work hard on it yourself, or at least reach the minimum requirements. Gu Qingshan became spirited and asked, What is it? What do you need me to do? Buttercup looked at him and replied, You're a sword cultivator, and hitman, as well as an expert in cooking and many other abilities. I remember that you've taken on many different identities in the suspended world. That's right, Gu Qingshan replied. Buttercup continued. I'll give you 1 month. You need to reach the level of a titled hitman within 1 month. This is the minimum requirement. 1 month? Gu Qingshan asked. Buttercup replied. That's right, only if you can reach this requirement will my method have a chance of working, at which point, I'll do my best to help you, Gu Qingshan replied in a low voice. Very well, I'll do it. Chapter 1367. A titled hitman represents the peak strength of the Hitman Guild. It's not easy to become a hitman of this level. But Buttercup told me that I need to achieve this before I can help him. The Hitman Guild's strength can be considered one of the strongest in Void City, so what exactly is it that requires a titled hitman to do? After thinking for a bit, Gu Qingshan suddenly realized that he doesn't know too much about the Hitman Guild. Since I can't go on any missions right now, I might as well go back and learn more about the guild with that in mind. He stood up and said, It's getting late, I'll be leaving first, I'll come find you again next time. Buttercup reached her hand out. Give me one of your communication talismans. Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised, then recalled that she had once stayed in a cultivation-type world, even dating a cultivator, so of course she knew how to use a communication talisman. Wait a minute. It's been a while since I've used it, let me look for it. Gu Qingshan took out a communication talisman and gave it to her. Buttercup received the talisman and also stood up, saying, Your abilities will be taken away for an entire day, it might not be safe for you to walk around by yourself, I'll take you back to the Hitman Guild. No need, I should be fine, Gu Qingshan replied. Buttercup continued, Don't be careless. Although your invisibility technique is impressive, if there's still some sort of mark or something similar on your body, it might draw the attention of certain entities and cause problems. While they were talking, the sound of footsteps could be heard coming from the door. Following that, the door was opened as a child, who appeared to be around 5 years old, came in. Mommy, I want to bring some snacks back to. The child's voice suddenly stopped. He looked at Gu Qingshan, then at Buttercup. His expression became cautious. Mommy, who is this? Buttercup didn't mind. Ah, an old friend. Why did you sneak back here again? I want to eat the snacks you made yourself. They're really delicious. The child smiled and said. Buttercup's lips curled up a bit and said, Wait, I'll make some for you. Bring it back to the tower and share it with the other students. She hurried into the house. Taking advantage of this moment, the child curiously circled around Gu Qingshan and whispered, Are you her boyfriend? No. Gu Qingshan quickly denied. Really? The child asked doubtfully. Gu Qingshan smiled and said, It's really not. Your mother helped me before, and we have a mutual friend. Only then did the child heave a sigh of relief and murmur, Thank goodness you're not. You're too weak. You're a disgrace to my mother. Gu Qingshan, this child must be the realm demon from back then. I really don't know what kind of power the ominous demon tower has to be able to turn the realm demon back into a child, almost no different from a human. Speaking of which, every force in Void City seemed to have their own characteristics and abilities. They were stronger than any organization in the 900 million world layers. While Gu Qingshan was thinking, Buttercup came out with 2 bags of snacks, one for her son and the other for Gu Qingshan. I made them, they taste quite good, take them back, she told Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan hurriedly received the snacks and said in surprise, Ah, thank you, thank you. He had always been the one to cook for others, other than Xiao Lu, very few people ever cooked for him. The child happily received the snacks and said, Thank you, mother, before turning around and disappeared. Buttercup opened the door and turned to Gu Qingshan. Let's go, I'll take you back. Since Gu Qingshan was holding a plate of snacks in both hands, she couldn't refuse and could only follow her outside. It was already late at night. There weren't many people on the street. Buttercup and Gu Qingshan walked on the silent street, talking as they walked. Within the space turbulence, many powerful monsters and forces have a place in this city. That's why everyone has agreed on some common rules, Han Shuo said. Xiao Dai would remind him of whatever she thought of. For example? Gu Qingshan asked. Xiao Dai said, Anyone who comes here without obtaining an identity within a day, if they don't leave, they will be done for. Gu Qingshan replied, I know about that, anything else? Buttercup replied, A newcomer who has just obtained an identity won't be carefully nurtured by any organization, unless that newcomer has proven their worth. She glanced at Gu Qingshan and whispered, A ceiling hitman can only be considered a temporary candidate. Only after you reach unsolvable or unlivable rank would the Hitman Guild recognize you as a valuable hitman, only then would they properly nurture you. Gu Qingshan recalled her time in the Hitman Guild, and felt a bit relieved. No wonder Poison Bee wasn't in a hurry to save me when I ran into the 4 demon insects, so it wasn't just for personal reasons, but also because a ceiling hitman isn't much at all. Also, when he became a sealed rank assassin, he only received a sturdy armor. He didn't have the right to touch anything else. Seems like I'll have to hurry up and become an unsolvable hitman as soon as possible. Right, Buttercup, what rank are you in the ominous demon tower? Have you passed your probation? Gu Qingshan asked. Buttercup replied. Being a teaching assistant is a probationary position. I'm the head of academic affairs. All the mischievous little demons have to listen to me. How impressive, Gu Qingshan sincerely praised her. Also, for some reason, I'm considered a goddess among the ominous demons. They all consider me their dream lover. Buttercup held back her laughter and said, Ah? They're infatuated with you? Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised. Buttercup pointed at her beautiful face. It's not my human form, it's my true demon form. You've seen it before. Ah, I understand. Ahahaha, are you surprised? I'm surprised myself as well, Buttercup laughed. Whenever Gu Qingshan talked to her, she didn't hide anything from her, so when she talked to Gu Qingshan, she felt comfortable and said whatever was on her mind. The two of them stopped in front of the Hitman Guild. Alright, I'm here, thank you for bringing me back, Gu Qingshan said. Then I'll be going back, keep working hard, come visit me whenever you have time, Buttercup said. She casually caught something from the void of space, and gave it to Gu Qingshan. This is my contact information. Alright, as soon as Gu Qingshan received the butterfly emblem, a whistle came from behind him. He turned around, only to see a man wearing a wide-brimmed top hat, a pair of black trousers, a pair of black leather shoes, as well as a slender rapier hanging from his waist. Titled Hitman Crow. This bewitchingly beautiful man displayed a frivolous smile and teased. You've only been in Void City for a few days, yet a beauty has already sent you back, and even offered to give you her contact. TSK. You're even more impressive than I was back then. Not at all, it's just an old friend, Gu Qingshan replied. Ahahaha, don't say any more, I understand. Crow patted his shoulder, gave him a knowing look, then glanced at Buttercup. Such a pure beauty, Why do I feel like she looks a bit familiar? Crow muttered, then suddenly showed a pondering expression. Buttercup coldly glared at Crow, thinking that Gu Qingshan would still be staying in the Hitman Guild for quite a while, so she slowly dispelled her killing intent. I'm leaving, contact me if you need anything, she told Gu Qingshan. This person is just a blabbermouth, don't take it to heart, Gu Qingshan said apologetically. It's fine, Buttercup smiled. She turned around and walked towards the other side of the street, slowly disappearing at the end of the road. Gu Qingshan looked at Crow. Crow was still thinking about Buttercup's background. Crow, I have something I want to ask you, What is it? Crow regained his senses and asked. Gu Qingshan replied. To advance to unsolvable rank, I need to complete 5 consecutive full score quests. It's troublesome and time-consuming. Is there a faster way? Crow looked at him with a mocking expression. You really want to advance that badly? I want to become a titled hitman as soon as possible, Gu Qingshan replied. Crow was a bit surprised, then chuckled. Seeing how you dealt with Poison Bee, I thought someone like you was just playing around as an hitman. I don't think of him as one of my own, Gu Qingshan replied. Crow nodded, then said, All right, if you really want to join the profession, you'll need to participate in a large-scale joint mission. If your performance is exceptional, you'll be able to complete 3 to 4 full score quests at once. I happen to be in charge of such a mission. Do you want to join? Gu Qingshan replied. Of course. Crow became a bit more cautious, then said, This mission is very difficult. You might lose your life if you're not careful. You need to consider carefully. There's no need to consider. I'll join. All right, if you die, don't blame me. I won't. I'll treat you to a drink after the mission. Ahaha, all right, at another location. Buttercup walked a few streets, then silently stood in a corner for a while. Scenes of the past flashed through her mind. Buttercup, although you're only 6 years old, your talent with scrolls is the best in this world. That's great. After being oppressed for so long, a peerless genius has finally appeared in our world. Keep it a secret. Make sure to keep it a secret. Yes. Don't say anything. Heavenly flames rained down. The world was heading towards destruction. No. I don't know what kind of information they've received, but they're trying to destroy our world. It's over, it's all over, boom, everyone was dead. I did everything I could to resist, but still slowly fell into the abyss of death. All of a sudden, a hand reached out and caught me. The hand was very steady, very warm. Ah, how pitiful, this is the only life left in this world. The man hovered in midair, looking down at me with pity in his eyes. You are. I am Bali, Iron Fist Bali. I am Gu Qing Shan. Please deliver this flower to the crippled Bali. I hope he's well. I will definitely deliver it to him. I will convey your blessings to him. But Buttercup, do you know what I think? I feel that at the moment of the infinite world's destruction, a person who still holds gratitude towards others is definitely not a demon. I hope that one day, you will be able to appear in front of him and tell him yourself, no matter what you turn into, your heart will never change, you will always be the little girl he saved. All the memories disappeared. Buttercup's gaze became focused. I've been abandoned for too long, she muttered, then abruptly disappeared. Chapter 1368. A few moments later, Buttercup appeared in a spacious office. Tower Master, what a rare guest, Buttercup, why are you here? Tower Master, I just remembered, it's been a long time since I last used my void points. The Tower Master looked at Buttercup and nodded. Ever since you bought the land and built a house in Void City, you've rarely used your points. From what I can see, you seem to be enjoying this kind of peaceful life. That's right, with your help, I've learned many things and grown quite a bit, but I'm not a person who has a high requirement for strength. Saying so, Buttercup suddenly smiled at the Tower Master. Even if something happens, you'll always stand in front of me, the Tower Master indifferently replied. You've wasted your talent in scrolls and rarely used the power of a true demon, but I won't urge you like I did before. After all, you're a good teacher, and the children here all like you. That's a good thing. Buttercup fell silent. A while later, the Tower Master helplessly said, I've already gone along with your words for so long, so what exactly do you want? Buttercup replied, I've accumulated enough points, so I want to take them all out and ask you to personally guide me for a while. The Tower Master shook his head and replied, Points are very precious, you don't need to use them like this. I remember that there are various methods in food to strengthen yourself, as well as countless unique treasures that are suitable for you to use. With your position in the tower, you can obtain them with a very low amount of points. The Tower Master thought for a bit, then continued. Buttercup, if you want to become stronger, you only need to use the resources of the tower and slowly improve yourself step by step. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask everyone else. If you learn from me, you'll suffer a lot. You're currently living a comfortable life, there's no need for that. Buttercup looked at the Tower Master and insisted. I still want to ask you to personally guide me, even if I have to spend all my void points, it doesn't matter, because, right now, I want to become one of the strongest ominous demons. The Pagoda Master's eyelids twitched as he suddenly emitted a murderous aura. He said indifferently, Come, tell me, which blind fool bullied you? No. Buttercup smiled and said, I really want to become stronger because there are some things that I can't always rely on you guys. I want to face them myself. Alright then. Let me make it clear first. My requirements are very strict. You must give it your all. Yes. One day later. Assassin Guild. In a rather spacious teleportation room, dozens of staff members were setting up teleportation energy crystals around the teleportation portal, checking the teleportation runes, and confirming the coordinates and corresponding intelligence. Compared to the portal that Gu Qing Shan had seen before, this portal was much more spacious and could accommodate 7 to 8 people at the same time. The 12 assassins had assembled. Crow was wearing a set of tight-fitting black leather armor, standing in front of the warp gate, coldly scanning through everyone. The Starfire clan's world was invaded by an apocalyptic civilization. They're already on the verge of extinction, so they've issued several high-ranking missions to Void City. The Bounty Hunter Guild, Hitman Guild, Demonis, and Holy Splendor Church have all received missions, so if you run into people from other organizations, there's no need to be surprised or act, someone doubtfully said. If the Holy Splendor Church and Demonis Guild are carrying out missions together, they'll most likely fight as soon as they appear, Crow replied. That won't happen. The Holy Splendor Church is responsible for the main battlefield, while the Demonis Guild is responsible for protecting the Starfire clan's dignitaries. The two are unrelated, someone else asked. Would the Bounty Hunter's mission overlap with ours? Crow explained. The Hunter's mission is to rescue all treasures and civilization's inheritances, while our mission is to infiltrate the depths of the apocalyptic civilization and assassinate the leader of the apocalyptic monsters. Are there any other questions? Everyone shook their heads. Suddenly, a voice asked, "What is an apocalyptic civilization?" Crow's eyebrows twitched. "We're about to act. Who asked such a shallow question?" He followed the voice and saw that it was the Fear Fiend King. A newcomer, that's understandable. An apocalyptic civilization is a civilization that defected to the apocalypse. This civilization was corrupted by a certain unique apocalypse, causing all living beings inside to mutate into monsters. If they want to survive, they must constantly destroy other worlds. Each world they destroy would allow them to survive for a bit longer, Crow patiently explained. Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised. Who would have thought that the apocalypse would also borrow other forces to destroy other worlds? This was the first time he had heard of such an apocalypse. Suddenly, a staff member loudly declared, 1 minute ago, the Holy Splendor Church's army had directly encountered the apocalyptic civilization. The war has officially begun, another staff member added. The assassins of the apocalyptic civilization were discovered in the palace. They have been eliminated by the Demonis. The hunters are currently fighting against the monsters that are trying to steal resources. The staff member continued to recite the various reports. The 12 hitmen didn't say anything and silently waited. It wasn't yet time for them to enter the battlefield. Under Crow's lead, the hitmen waited for another half an hour. Until a certain point, one of the staff members shouted, "The main battlefield has entered a stalemate. The main force of the church's knights are about to enter the battlefield." Gu Qingshan silently thought. As soon as the main force of the knights enter the battlefield, the apocalyptic civilization will surely be under a lot of pressure. It's probably time for the hitmen to enter the battlefield. Sure enough, another staff member excitedly said. According to our investigation, the apocalyptic monsters have already sent their strongest troops into the battlefield. Crow stretched his body a bit, stood up, and said, "It's our turn, sir? Activate the warp gate. The portal is activating. 5 seconds before the portal can begin. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bright rays of light converged on the warp gate, tearing open the void of space at the center of the gate. The other side of the void of space was clearly visible. It was an azure ocean current. Crow drew the rapier at his waist and pointed at the ocean on the other side. The apocalyptic civilization's command ship is right above the ocean. Right now is the time when their defenses are at their weakest. Everyone will enter the ship after teleporting there. Remember, kill without mercy. The enemy's head will be your hitman points. Understood?" The hitmen all replied. Crow pointed at the ocean on the other side of the warp gate and shouted, "Everyone, enter!" The 12 hitmen entered in a single file. In the blink of an eye, they appeared in the ocean. Looking up, they could faintly see a deep black shadow above them. The black shadow was the apocalyptic monster's ship. The hitmen quickly swam towards the surface of the ocean. They would take to the sky, then think of a way to infiltrate the ship and complete their assassination. At the same time, below the ocean, only Crow and Gu Qingshan remained here. "Hey, didn't you want to advance to unsolvable rank? Why are you still here?" Crow curiously asked. "A small situation," Gu Qingshan closed her eyes and replied. From the void of space, there seemed to be countless hurried and despairing whispers telling her, "Destruction. Destruction is coming. Save me, someone please save me." Gu Qingshan opened her eyes. This was the current world's request. And the world's wish. Prayers? Gu Qingshan slowly raised her hand and lightly clenched it. Blessing of the past worlds. This blessing would be able to prove his identity. At least it would let the current world understand that he was a trustworthy person. "I need your prayers, lend them to me, I'll help you," Gu Qingshan whispered. The voice became even more anxious, even a hint of intimacy and pleading. "All for you." A line of gray numbers appeared on the war god Yua. This number rapidly increased. The pleading voices of billions of living beings seemed to be resounding in Gu Qingshan's ears. "How regretful that I'm still too young. I really want to grow up and kill those monsters to avenge my father. The world is about to be destroyed. Can those guys from Void City actually help us? God, if you exist, please help us. Hurry, who's going to deal with those monsters? There are too many of them. Kill. Hurry. Kill them all." The numbers stopped. Gu Qingshan glanced through them. He drew the earth sword and muttered, "Just enough for me." Crow was confused and couldn't help but ask, "Hey, what are you doing?" Before he even finished, Gu Qingshan abruptly took a step forward. Boom, 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 boom. The sound of the war drum resounded like thunder, resounding across the entire world like a thunderstorm. The killing intent of the entire world was roused by the sound of this drum. The Chao Yin sword flew out, circled around Gu Qingshan once, and pointed at the seawater. In an instant, all the seawater exploded, roaring as it shot into the sky, obscuring the light of the sun. Roar! Like an unparalleled giant creature, the ocean abruptly opened its mouth and roared. Boundless seawater merged into one in the sky, forming two huge arms that grabbed the spaceship in the sky and pulled it down. The ship was held in front of Gu Qingshan by the giant oceanic arms. It struggled intensely, but couldn't escape the restraints of the ocean. Almost a miracle! At this point, the hitmen had only just leapt out of the water, still in the air, and hadn't reached the ship yet. Crow gripped the sword by his side, staring at Gu Qingshan with an unprecedentedly serious gaze. Gu Qingshan reached her hand into the void of space, grabbing the heaven sword, sacrificial sword, or sky shatter. This was the first strike of the sacrificial sword of 7 swords. Even the era of chaos was sent flying by this strike without leaving even a trace. Not to mention the fact that it was only a single apocalyptic monster ship that was stopped in front of Gu Qingshan. The sword moved. A beautiful arc-shaped sword shadow appeared. The sky and sea shattered. A deafening explosion resounded throughout the void of space. The apocalyptic monster ship no longer struggled. As if it was dead, it remained motionless in place. A few moments later, a violent sea breeze blew past. Everything was empty. The ship was completely sliced into pieces, scattered by the wind into the ocean. No traces of its existence could be found. As for the apocalyptic monsters inside the ship, there was no need to mention what happened to them. The clouds in the sky were scattered. The ocean trembled. Surrounded by seawater, Gu Qingshan sheathed her sword and stood still. "All right, that's just enough," he muttered. The seawater slowly returned to normal. Everything slowly returned to normal. Crow looked at the other hitmen standing still in the sky, then at Gu Qingshan. It was supposed to be a dangerous, large-scale joint mission. He cleared his throat, then turned his arm to greet Gu Qingshan. Chapter 1369. Across the street from the Hitman Guild, there was a grand and luxurious building. From the looks of it, this building wasn't any weaker than the current guild. In fact, it was even taller than the Hitman Guild, taking up a lot more space. After all, the Hitman Guild prioritized keeping a low profile, but this building didn't care about that. Instead, it hoped that more people would pay attention to it. The Bounty Hunter Guild. Assassins usually only do a single thing: assassinate. Unlike the hitman's purity, the bounty hunters take on any and every kind of job: treasure hunting, protection, development, exploration, theft, etc. If the bounty is especially generous, the hunters don't mind occasionally taking on the role of an assassin. Thus, as soon as a job was posted, it drew the attention of the bounty hunters. Because the reward is very generous. The barren region's broken world, there's a treasure in that kind of place? Someone hesitantly asked. Idiot, you're a newbie, aren't you? The more a place like that, the more likely it is to hide secrets that no one knows about, another mocked. The previous person became angry and turned to look at the one who spoke, but when he saw who it was, his anger was instantly extinguished, unable to say a single word. How regretful, this job requires unsolvable or unlivable hunters to act. I don't have a chance, someone regretfully said. It's not just the level limit, it also requires a professional treasure hunter with at least 10 successful treasure hunting experiences, another hunter sighed emotionally. Look at this third requirement. Skilled in close combat, agile, no spellcasters, because there might be anti-magic monsters. From the looks of it, only those experienced veterans are qualified to take on this job. With such high requirements, the treasure most likely isn't normal either, the hunters discussed among themselves. The hunters who were qualified to accept the quest accepted the quest silently and turned around to leave. Unlike the Hitman Guild, the Bounty Hunter Guild encouraged competition. As long as they met the employer's requirements, anyone could take on the job. But as for who could complete the job and receive the bounty, that would depend on their own strength. Half an hour later. The barren region's broken world. This was a destroyed world, a no-man's zone. Two hunters were enthusiastically greeting each other. Double-edged eagle, I didn't know you accepted this quest. If I had known, I wouldn't have come, said the stocky, dark-skinned man. In front of him, a short man with two short knives on his waist laughed and said, "Ha ha ha, so it's peeling heart demon thorn. The reward for this mission is too generous. I had no choice but to come." The black-faced man hesitated. "Then, why don't we complete this mission together and split the rewards?" "Good idea." The short man clapped his hands. "That's it? It's settled then." "All right, let's go. According to the mission report, the ruins should be here." The black-faced man lowered his head to look at the report in his hand and walked in a certain direction. Behind him, the short man's face revealed a fierce expression. It couldn't be helped. This was a great opportunity. They were both hunters of the same level. If they were to fight head-on, the outcome would be different. However, the other party had exposed his back just like that. If he still didn't make a move, he would be wasting such a good opportunity. The short man quietly drew out two short knives. "Die!" he roared, his two blades fiercely slashing at the black-faced man. Dang! Dang! Two clear sounds. At some point, the black-faced man had turned into a metal rod that stood still. Intense pain. The short man looked down in disbelief, only to see a sharp thorn piercing through his heart. The black-faced man's regretful voice came from behind him. "There's no need for you to do this. Actually, it would be better if we split the reward equally." The thorn retracted. The short man fell to the ground. The black-faced man sighed, stepped forward, and used the black demon thorn in his hand to cut the other party into meat paste. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to destroy your corpse. You're too cunning. I'm afraid that you might have something else up your sleeve." After doing that, the black-faced man took out the report again and seriously read it. This world had already been destroyed. The civilization of the past was nowhere to be found, leaving only a few sparse buildings that still stood tall on the barren land despite the baptism of time. Southwest, it's quite far away from the warp point. It's an intact building. If that's the case, it might be a treasure left behind by the previous civilization. How curious, I have to take a look at it. If it's not suitable, I can just give it to the guild in exchange for the reward. The black-faced man looked towards the southwest direction, his gaze becoming solemn. His figure moved, and he kept flying in the southwest direction. Time passed. At midnight, the black-faced man caught up to a small hunting party. There were a total of 5 people in this hunting party. Each one of them was an expert in treasure hunting. They've met each other in the guild before. When they noticed someone quickly approaching from behind, they immediately got into a defensive formation. The black-faced man stopped at a distance, looking at this group of 5. "This is a bit troublesome. Gentlemen, did you also accept this quest?" he asked. "That's right, Peeling Heart Demon Thorn, Scram, don't force us to kill you," the party leader loudly replied. The black-faced man bowed and said, "Can I join you? After all, this quest has a higher chance of success with more people. I only want 20% of the reward. Do you want to die?" Scram. 10%. I only want 10%. Scram. The black-faced man helplessly shrugged and said, "Fine, I'll just pretend I'm here for fun. Give me 5%, that should be fine. I only want 5%, and I'll be responsible for holding the front for the rest of the journey." The party leader appeared hesitant. Peeling Heart Demon Thorn was indeed an expert. If he could hold the front, the safety of the party would greatly increase. Most importantly, perhaps he didn't want to return empty-handed, so he only wanted 5% of the reward. The party leader glanced at his party members. Everyone nodded. The party leader loudly called out to the other side, "If that's the case, it's not impossible, but we need to sign a contract." He threw a magic contract over. The black-faced man received it. The conditions and content were extremely strict. This was a magic contract that had gone through countless checks and fixes, so there were almost no loopholes at all. The black-faced man happily signed the contract. The magic contract flashed and disappeared from his hand. The contract was completed. It was now that the other party members showed expressions of relief. The party leader also smiled and spoke in a low voice. "Old Fu, I apologize for offending you just now. Please don't take it to heart." The black-faced man shook his head and said with understanding, "It's fine after all, there are many good and bad hunters in this day and age. Some people like to play dirty." He walked up and greeted everyone. Everyone put their weapons away. Someone opened a bottle of liquor, took a sip, then tossed it to him. The black-faced man caught it, smelled it, and was surprised. "Void flower? That's right, sorry about what happened just now. We're all very careful when we're out on a mission," the man smiled and said. "I suspect that someone else took this mission as well. Seems like we'll have to hurry." The black-faced man nodded and said. The party leader laughed. "It's fine, with how strict the requirements for this mission are, there aren't many people who can come. I'm guessing that no one would be able to take on all 6 of us at once." The black-faced man nodded. "That's true, so I'm also very regretful. I really don't want to split the reward with you." As soon as he said so, countless sharp spikes suddenly sprouted from the ground, stabbing at them hundreds of times in a split second. 4 of them didn't even have time to scream before they died. The only one left was the party leader, struggling to hold on to his last breath, and muttered unwillingly, "Clearly, the contract." The black-faced man sighed and threw the bottle of liquor in his hand to the ground. "Do you think I'm only a close combat professionist?" he asked. The party leader couldn't breathe anymore, but his eyes were still wide open, waiting for an answer. The black-faced man looked around. The ground was barren and boundless, not a single person could be seen. In such a desolate world, if it weren't for this bounty mission, no one would have ever come to this place. In other words, it was very safe. It was now that the black-faced man lowered his head and muttered, "In truth, I have a causality ability. As long as I can make a contract with someone, I won't be killed by them, and I can even unilaterally break the contract." Hearing that, the party leader's body trembled uncontrollably, his throat letting out a gurgling noise. He glared at the black-faced man with wide eyes. If looks could kill, the black-faced man would have already been killed countless times over. The black-faced man admired the expression of the other party before he died and smirked. You're quite the lucky one. It's very rare for me to reveal the answer to a mystery. I'm only telling you this because I admire your despair and rage. After saying so, he crushed the other party's head with his foot. Everything calmed down. 5 corpses. The ground was covered in blood. The world was silent. The wind lightly blew, dispersing the stench of blood. The black-faced man walked out of the blood-stained area, looked at the bloody footprints on his body, and slowly scowled. He took out a brand-new pair of boots and put them on. After that, he sped up and continued moving forward. 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 A few hours later. Finally, the ruins of a city slowly appeared in his sight. The black-faced man glanced at the report in his hand and sped up again. I'm almost there. He entered the ruins, carefully identifying the terrain according to the map in the report. At a certain point, he found the building mentioned in the report. Unfortunately, another hunter had arrived in front of the building at the same time. The hunter was holding the same report in his hand, comparing it to the building on the map. No need to look, it's this building. The black-faced man threw the report in his hand away and told him. The hunter glanced at him. So it's the Peeling Heart Demon Spike. Seems like the bounty for this mission is quite high. Even you're tempted. Saying so, the hunter drew his weapon and held it horizontally in front of his chest. A strong killing intent rose from his body. The battle was about to begin. On the other side, the black-faced man didn't seem worried at all and pointed at the building's door. This building's door is already broken, but we don't need to use brute force, otherwise the entire building might collapse. What are you trying to say? The hunter asked. This building has been here for too long. If we were to engage in a fierce battle here, it might destroy the entire building, which might affect the treasure hunt later on, the black-faced man replied. The hunter appeared hesitant. The black-faced man sighed and opened his arms. You and I are the first hunters to arrive here, but there will definitely be others coming after us. Are we really going to fight to the death and let them take advantage of us? The hunter thought about it and agreed. What do you mean? He put down his weapon and asked. It's simple, we'll go treasure hunting together and split it 50-50, this way we won't have to fight and we'll get the bounty, it's the best deal, the black-faced man replied. The hunter thought for a few seconds and quickly said, That's fine, but we need a binding contract, preferably a death contract, the black-faced man agreed. I also think that should be the case, otherwise I won't be able to fight alongside you without worry. The two of them spent a bit of time to sign the death contract. The hunter sighed in relief, put his weapon away, took out a small tool, and crouched down in front of the door to pick the lock. Just as you said, this door is already extremely broken, and it's connected to the wall. A single misstep could destroy the building. While saying so, he slowly turned the lock-picking tool in his hand. Gotcha! The lock was finally opened. The hunter was still crouching in front of the door without moving. What a good lock-picking skill, the black-faced man praised. He retracted the spike that pierced through the man's head, then carefully put the body into his inventory. There might be other people coming to this place, so I can't let them notice anything. All right, we've finally reached this point. Let me see what kind of treasure this time is. The black-faced man muttered excitedly and lightly pushed the door open. He suddenly froze. There was nothing else on the other side of the door, only a man in heavy armor standing there with a sword in his hand. Peeling Heart Demon Thorn, Fu Chuan? The man asked. The black-faced man looked at him, quickly searched through his mind, then calmly replied. That's me, who are you? I don't remember an unsolvable or unlivable hunter with a name like you, the man replied. Of course not, I'm a sealer, the black-faced man chuckled. What are you doing here? You can't accept this job at your level, the man sighed, then helplessly replied. I've made so many arrangements and worked so hard to get all of you into this job, all for the sake of advancing to unsolvable. Saying so, he raised his sword. The 6 Paths Great Mountain Sword. Chapter 1370. The black-faced man shook his head and sighed. So that's how it is. Unfortunately, you chose the wrong promotion mission. Gu Qingshan said, That's right. Am I right? The black-faced man asked. Gu Qingshan said, Double-edged eagle, brutalizing 5, venomous wolf, and peeling heart, you are all my mission targets. Unfortunately, I can't find you, nor do I know your abilities. So, I can only post a mission in the Hunters Guild, and come here in person. The sword was like a pool of autumn water, emitting a cold light in the dusky space. The black-faced man's expression gradually changed. Wait, you're not a hunter? Ah, of course not, I'm an assassin, Gu Qingshan replied. The black-faced man finally understood. The assassin in front of him was in the midst of a promotion quest. He wanted to kill him. The dark-faced man's gaze shifted to the other party's longsword and said calmly, In that case, there are no treasures in this world. You issued a mission at the Bounty Hunter Guild just to gather us. Smart, Gu Qingshan praised. Are you ready? You can die now. Wait. The dark-faced man suddenly shouted, Don't kill me, we can reach an agreement. I'll give you all my wealth, and you can spare my life. That won't work, Gu Qingshan said awkwardly. As long as you can reach an agreement with someone, you won't be killed by them, and you can even unilaterally tear up the agreement. The black-faced man's pupils constricted. He abruptly pulled out 2 sharp thorns and lunged at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan did not move. In the next instant, the black-faced man had just moved his body when he collided with the void and froze there. Gu Qingshan moved. His sword-wielding hand seemed to disappear for a moment, but it also seemed like he didn't move at all. The wind picked up. A howling gale welcomed the black-masked man and instantly blew him away. The wind swirled up the blood that was as thick as ink and rushed out of the abandoned building, dyeing the sky a deep red. Crimson. Light red. Light pink. Under the dark and empty sky, everything was dispersed by the wind. Clang. The 2 spikes fell to the ground, making a crisp sound. Gu Qingshan let go of the sword in her hand and let it return to the void behind her. He took out a mission list and looked at it carefully. 1, 2, 3, 8 people. All right, the promotion mission is complete. The other side. Assassin Guild. Tuck. Come in. President, the Fear Fiend King's promotion quest has been completed, Qin reported. Oh. The one-eyed old man said with interest, You advanced so quickly? What did he do? He got the assassination mission issued by the Hunters Guild, Jean said. The one-eyed old man thought for a while and said, That's part of the Hunters Guild's elimination plan. They're determined to eliminate those gray hunters who like to attack their own people. That's right, after the Fear Fiend King received the mission, he felt that there were too many people to kill, so he directly went to the Hunters Guild and issued a very targeted treasure hunting mission, then went to the treasure hunting area to wait for those people, Jean explained. Ahahaha, what a naughty fellow, coming up with such a labor-saving assassination method. That's why he killed those 8 people in the end? No, he only killed one, the others died from internal strife. So that's how it was. It seems he had already predicted it. Very good, let him be promoted, understood. From now on, you can tell him all of the benefits and training measures of the guild, understood. The bar. In front of the bar, Crow and Gu Qingshan were sitting together, drinking and chatting. You've spent a lot of money today, Crow said. It's fine, I still have to thank you for bringing me along during the large-scale comprehensive mission. Gu Qingshan raised her glass and said. Ahaha, don't mention it, I'll never bring you along again, Crow teased her. Why not? Once you enter God mode, others won't even get a sip of soup, so let's just forget about it. Gu Qingshan helplessly shook her head. The 2 of them clinked glasses. The bar was noisy. All kinds of monsters had taken human form and were enjoying themselves here. Why did you become an hitman in the first place? Crow casually asked. I was poor and needed money, what about you? Gu Qingshan replied. That's all I know, Crow shrugged and helplessly replied. He thought for a bit, then continued. I didn't mean to pry into your abilities, I was only guessing that the power that allowed you to instantly wipe out the entire field wasn't something you could easily unleash. That's right, that's definitely the case, Gu Qingshan admitted. That's why I'm trying to say that Void City is filled with various organizations, combatants, and countless abilities. Although you've become an unsolvable hitman, I still hope that you won't be too careless, Crow said. Gu Qingshan seriously listened to him, then raised her glass. That's exactly what I'm thinking. In truth, I've always been treading on thin ice, afraid that I'll encounter some sort of unique ability and be knocked to the ground, never to stand up again. Ah? You sound like you're quite touched by that, Crow said in surprise. That's right, I ran into a hunter today. His fighting strength was very low, but his abilities were very unpredictable, Gu Qingshan replied. He still felt a bit of lingering fear as he told her about the Peeling Heart Demon Thorn ability. Crow also exclaimed in surprise. While the two of them were drinking, their surroundings suddenly became silent. Most of the people in the crowd had taken out their communication devices to receive the latest information. Crow and Gu Qingshan's badges also sent out a telepathic request. The two of them exchanged glances, then turned on their respective badges. A piece of information quickly appeared in their minds. Frowny face special news. The Eternal Abyss subordinates have been defeated on a large scale. The Wraith Realm is currently advancing towards the Eternal Abyss. Through our investigation, we've found that the Eternal Abyss is still in a slumber state. Everyone began to discuss this. Crow also scowled. I really don't understand what those Wraith Realm guys are thinking, Gu Qingshan asked. Why exactly do they want to attack the Eternal Abyss? Who knows? The Eternal Abyss is the strongest monster in the Void Turbulence. Let's not even talk about it. Just the powerful subordinates of the Eternal Abyss are no weaker than anyone else. Crow took a sip of liquor, then muttered. Everyone thinks that the Wraith Realm people have gone mad. Does no one know their true intentions? Gu Qingshan asked again. None at all, they're too isolated. Almost everyone is under the control of talismans and masks. You won't be able to obtain any information from them at all, Crow replied. Gu Qingshan fell silent. What exactly is the Wraith Realm trying to do? After I used the 7 strikes, I entered a temporary state of spirit wander and saw an illusion of the future. In the future, the Wraith Realm people ruled over the 900 million world layers, killing and pillaging everywhere they went to collect the fragments of the samsara, then finally set their sights on my homeworld. Gu Qingshan clenched her fist. How could I let such a future happen? Crow, How did you become a titled hitman? About that, in truth, the highest you can achieve after completing an assassination mission is to become an unlivable hitman, Crow thought for a bit, then continued. To become a titled hitman, your codename must first be recognized by living beings and the infinite worlds, receive the support of the laws, and become a title. Titles contain unique powers that can help you improve your strength. In other words, my Fear Fiend King codename will become a title? That's right, Crow confirmed. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit. That can't be right. The codename, Fear Fiend King, does indeed have the necessary elements to become a unique title. But those elements were all absorbed by my eye and turned into the world technique, Fog Realm Descent. In other words, the Hitman codename, Fear Fiend King, has lost the possibility of becoming a title. Gu Qingshan felt tense and asked, Crow, can we hitmen change our codenames? Of course we can. Why? You don't like the codename the old man gave you? Crow asked. It's because of a few other reasons. In short, I want to change my codename, Gu Qingshan replied. Ah? Have you thought it through? What do you want to change to? Crow asked with interest. Gu Qingshan paused. That's right, what do I want to change to? He fell into thought. A full quarter of an hour passed. I can't think of anything. Gu Qingshan was troubled. Chapter 1371. You can't figure it out? Crow laughed. You don't need to think about it yourself. You can just find someone else to help you. Who are you looking for? I don't think it's a good idea to look for the president again, Gu Qing-shan said. Names, code names, and titles are all things that belong to the mystics, closely linked to a person's fate. You need to look for astrologers, they're experts in these matters, Crow explained. Gu Qing-shan's eyes lit up. Crow, was your title given to you by an astrologer? Yes. What's your title? Dead Silver Crow. Sounds good. Crow put the glass down, stood up, and said, Let's go, I'll take you to the most famous astrologer in the city. I guarantee that he'll be able to solve this problem. Very well, Gu Qing-shan gladly agreed. The two of them left the bar and walked along the street. Soon, they arrived at the central area of Void City. Wait, this place seems to be close to the City Lord's mansion. Gu Qing-shan pointed ahead. In front of the two of them was a dark gray, majestic building. It looked a little stifling, but also solemn. City Lord Residence. The Lord of Void City was a very mysterious person. Only the upper echelons of the major forces knew of the Lord's background. Ordinary people only knew that there was a City Lord, but they could not inquire about any information related to the City Lord. That was a taboo and would immediately draw the hostility of the entire Void City. The clairvoyant we're looking for is in the City Lord's manor, Crow said. What? Isn't that bad? Gu Qing-shan asked. I might not be able to do anything else, but when it comes to divination, no one will stop me, Crow confidently said. As they spoke, the two of them had already approached the City Lord's mansion. A group of fully armored knights galloped over and stopped in front of the two of them. The leading knight asked, Assassins, why have you come to the City Lord's mansion? Crow said, This friend of mine wants to come up with a codename. We're going to perform a divination. The knight paused, gestured behind him, and said in a relaxed tone, Don't worry. Enter from the second side door on the left. Someone will bring you to the divination room. With that, he led the team of knights away. Crow then brought Gu Qing-shan towards the City Lord's manor. The City Lord has an advisor who's an expert in divination. As long as you can afford it, he'll be more than happy to give you a codename, Crow replied. Gu Qing-shan recalled that she had received a sum of money when she entered the city, and that she had received quite a lot of rewards for completing the mission. She heaved a sigh of relief and said, I see. That's convenient. Finally, he didn't have to think about a codename. Speaking of which, professional matters should be left to the professionals. Wasn't he just asking for trouble by letting his imagination run wild? After thinking it through, Gu Qing-shan suddenly felt enlightened. When the two of them arrived at the side door, there was indeed a maidservant waiting for them. You two don't wander around. I'll take you to the divination room. The maidservant bowed. Gu Qing-shan and Crow both returned the gesture, saying, Thank you. The maidservant led the two of them to a secluded room. Lord Crow, may I ask if it was you who performed the divination, or this friend of yours? The maid asked. He's my friend, Crow replied. Does he know the rules? The maidservant asked. I didn't mention it in advance, Crow replied. That's right, nothing can be told to him in advance. This is the Lord's rule, the maidservant said with satisfaction. Lord Crow, then please wait outside. Your friend may enter, the maidservant said. All right, I'll stand here for a bit, Crow casually said. Gu Qing-shan was led inside by the maidservant. Please wait a moment, I'll inform the Lord, the maidservant said. Thank you, Gu Qing-shan replied. The maidservant bowed again, then slowly disappeared. Gu Qing-shan looked around. This room seemed to be specifically used for divination, as there was only a single square table at the center of the room. Other than that, there was nothing else. Gu Qing-shan stood still in front of the square table. A few moments later, the maidservant appeared again. She held a stack of paper and a pen in her hand, placed the paper on the table, and gave the pen to Gu Qing-shan. The Lord said that we can begin, the maidservant said. What do I need to do now? Gu Qingshan asked. The maidservant gestured for him to look at the table, then disappeared into the void of space again. Gu Qingshan looked back, only to see a line of common human text appearing on the paper. What would you like to divine, Your Excellency? Gu Qingshan answered without hesitation. I want a codename that suits me, preferably one that can evolve into a title in the future. Another line of text appeared on the white paper. Frowny face. Your title is actually determined by your actions, but a good codename will indeed allow you to gain the favor of living beings, the world, and the laws of the world. Gu Qingshan nodded. The other party's words were very reasonable. I'm an hitman. I hope you'll consider this when choosing my codename. Sorry for the trouble, Gu Qingshan said. Another line of text appeared on the white paper. Frowny face. Then let us begin. I want to ask you 3 things. You must answer me truthfully. First, is the thing you're best at and what you like to do the most the same thing? What is it? Gu Qingshan answered without hesitation. I like to cook and I'm also quite good at it. My future dream is to open a restaurant by the sea. The white paper fell silent. I'm clearly a murderer. How did I become a chef? After a while, new lines of text appeared on the white paper. Frowny face. Please hold the pen and write down a certain title you've obtained in the past. If there isn't one, write none. A pen appeared from the void of space and flew in front of Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan held it in his hand. This is a very simple matter. He thought for a bit, then wrote down a title. Frowny face. Shen Wei General. This was the title he obtained in the cultivation world. Immediately, a new line of small words appeared under this title. I will use the power of divination to calculate your new title based on the 3 previous titles you have. Are you willing? Gu Qingshan thought for a bit and decided that it didn't really matter. He nodded. Go ahead. Ripples seemed to appear on the white paper, and gradually, a few names of different lengths appeared on the paper. Cherub of Condemnation, Big Tabby Cat. Orange, Sovereign, Adept Dragon Slayer, Inheritor of the 1,000 Dragons Ancestor. The white paper fell silent again. This time, the silence was a bit longer. In another room, someone muttered in confusion. Adept Dragon Slayer is understandable, but why is he the inheritor of the dragon race? She continued to ramble on. Titles are actually very serious matters. Why did the laws allow him to have a title like Big Tabby Cat? And that cherub, I really don't understand it. Next to her, the maids were already covering their mouths, trying their best not to laugh out loud. Gu Qingshan was also a bit embarrassed. She didn't think it would be such a coincidence to draw 3 such titles at once. Can you give me a new title now? He asked. A few moments later, new lines of text appeared on the white paper. Frowny face. One last question. What is your real name? Gu Qingshan shook her head. I'm sorry, I'm an evil creature. Our real name is something we've never been willing to talk about. All the text on the white paper disappeared, replaced by a new line of text. Frowny face. It was my lack of consideration. Then let us change the question. What is your strongest fighting style? No need to be specific, just tell me what it is. Gu Qingshan answered without hesitation. Dancing. I mean, sword dance. The white paper fell silent. What sword dance? You're talking about dancing, right? Dance, dance. A chef who knows how to dance, whose original title was Big Tabby Cat, now wants me to calculate a new title. That's a bit hard. A few walls away, the person sighed helplessly and rubbed her temples in annoyance. The maids tried to persuade her. If you think it's troublesome, we can kick that person out. No, she replied. This is the kind of thing that's more challenging. I want to calculate it properly, at another location. Gu Qingshan was waiting. A few lines of text once again appeared on the white paper. Frowny face. Originally, I only needed to ask 3 questions, but there are too many uncertainties about your body, so I need you to cooperate with me. Is that all right? Gu Qingshan recalled the 3 questions she answered just now and felt that it was too difficult, so she happily replied. No problem. Please place your hand on the white paper. Gu Qingshan placed her hand on it. On the other side of the wall, The person also placed his hand on a piece of white paper, silently sensing it. Strange, his body is indeed that of an evil creature, but I feel like something isn't right, unimaginable. The law of spacetime he carries isn't quite right, as if he came from another era. He is proficient in 3 types of power: soul origin, world origin, and the prayers of living beings. The first is swordsmanship, the second is world technique, but the prayers of living beings are used to. The person abruptly pulled his hand back and swung his sleeve. Instantly, all the maids disappeared, transported to another location. There was no one around. The person suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, feeling a wave of shock in his heart. So the dance he was talking about was this kind of dance. This is unimaginable. The person breathed heavily, then quickly wrote a line of text on the paper. "I'll remember you, fiend," she muttered. At another location, Gu Qingshan stared at the white paper, only to see a line of text slowly appearing on it. "Frowny face, your hitman codename has been calculated. It is Dragon King of Atrocity Jail." Gu Qingshan froze. "It's that simple?" he muttered to himself. A line of glowing text suddenly appeared on the war god UI. "Frowny face, you've obtained the complete hitman codename, Dragon King of Atrocity Jail. There is no need to do anything unnecessary. As long as you do what you want to do, this codename will one day become your title." Chapter 1372. Gu Qingshan walked out from the small house. "How is it? What kind of codename did he give you?" Crow asked with interest. "Dragon King of Atrocity Jail," Gu Qingshan replied. Crow pondered this codename, then slowly said, "It sounds quite special. How much did he charge you?" 50 void gold coins, Gu Qingshan replied. "That much?" Crow exclaimed in shock. "Seems like that advisor must have put in a lot of effort." Gu Qingshan smiled and said nothing. He had already taken out almost all of the money he had on him, leaving only a single silver coin. "Not good." After returning to the guild, "I need to quickly exchange my points for some money, otherwise, I won't even be able to afford to drink later on." A maid appeared out of thin air and bowed to them. "Please follow me, I'll lead you out of the estate." "Ah, thank you," the two of them said in unison. Perhaps it was just her imagination, but Gu Qingshan felt like this maid was looking at her with an inexplicable smile in her eyes. "What are you smiling about?" Gu Qingshan silently muttered. The maid led the two of them outside. Halfway there, another maidservant suddenly appeared. This maid appeared a bit nervous and said, "We have guests, please follow me on the small path." Gu Qingshan and Crow nodded, then let the two maids lead the way. The city lord's estate was heavily guarded. The sky was filled with various magical barriers, as well as various defensive measures on the ground, so without a guide, they wouldn't dare to wander around carelessly. As they were about to turn onto a small path on the side, a group of people appeared at the end of the path. They were 7 to 8 men wearing yiksha masks. Gu Qingshan casually glanced at these wraiths. So the so-called guests were them. Why did they come to the city lord's estate? "You two will go this way." The maid hurriedly led Gu Qingshan and Crow to the small path to avoid the guests. Then they heard the sound of discussion from the other side. "The people of the Hitman Guild, a bunch of clowns, about to bow down to us, underground rats, daring to come to the city lord's estate." The people of the Wraith Realm spoke without hesitation. Gu Qingshan was not an ordinary person. Her face was expressionless. She pretended that she did not hear anything and walked straight to the path. This place was none other than Void City's City Lord's Manor. Everything that happened here, every word that was said, could possibly represent the true intentions of a certain force. But the people of the Wraith Realm dared to openly provoke the Hitman Guild in the City Lord's Manor. They must have prepared something. They must have been plotting something, planning to do something. Perhaps they weren't targeting the Hitman Guild, but any organization of Void City that appeared in the City Lord's mansion. I and Crow only happened to run into this matter at the right time. In a second, Gu Qingshan made a decision. He decided not to take the bait. However, Crow suddenly turned around. A bunch of things that are neither human nor ghost, yet you dare to mock our assassin guild, he sneered. Gu Qingshan's heart sank. Crow was a titled hitman, a top-tier combatant of the Hitman Guild. With Crow's status, if he allowed others to insult the guild and himself in front of him, he wouldn't be able to stay in Void City any longer. The people of the Wraith Realm immediately stopped. Almost as soon as Crow spoke, they stopped in their tracks. When Crow finished speaking, they had already surrounded him. Gu Qingshan's gaze moved around, only to see that these people were gesturing with their eyes, apparently arranging something. Sure enough, this was premeditated. But what are they trying to express by targeting the Hitman Guild? Crow smirked, then told Gu Qingshan in a low voice. I've dragged you into this. Gu Qingshan shook her head, thinking quickly. Both Crow and I haven't made any preparations for battle. The other party must have some sort of plan. If something were to happen, both Crow and I would end up very badly. But this is the City Lord's manor. As soon as a conflict breaks out, guards would immediately arrive. In other words, if this conflict breaks out, the people of the Wraith Realm are confident that they would be able to determine the victor in a very short amount of time. Gu Qingshan's gaze quickly scanned through the crowd. In that split second, everyone around her was making various reactions. The leader of the Wraith Realm group was about to say something, the others around him were silently preparing something, the maids of the City Lord's manor appeared hesitant, Crow's hand had only just reached the hilt of his sword. In that split second, Gu Qingshan moved. Everyone felt their vision blur for a split second, then an autumn water clear sword was already pressed against the Wraith leader's neck. The Wraith leader's body gave off layers of 5-colored light, countless incantations and defensive techniques manifested, resounded, then faded away. A lawbreaker. There was no defensive technique that could block this sword. Everyone froze. This strike was too fast, so fast that no one could react in time. This strike was able to pierce through all defensive techniques. It was completely unbelievable. Just now, you said, the hitmen were a bunch of clowns? Gu Qingshan asked. The sword lightly swung. A line of blood instantly appeared on the other party's neck. Blood continuously flowed out. Release the elder. Despicable hitman, you're done for. Put your sword away, bastard, you want to die. Amidst the clamor, Gu Qingshan thrust her sword forward. The other party's wound immediately expanded. More blood flowed out. If you keep yelling, I'll kill him right away, Gu Qingshan casually said. Everyone immediately went silent. The two maids hurriedly went to inform the others. Crow laughed out loud. Ah ha ha ha, a sword was already pressed against your neck before you even attacked. I'd like to see how arrogant you can be now. He was actually a bit surprised. As a titled hitman of the guild, he couldn't avoid it. Originally, when both sides met, they would at least exchange a few harsh words, talk about their grudges, and figure out what exactly went wrong that led to this conflict. With the maids of the City Lord's manor on the side, the other party would have to consider the possibility of accidentally injuring them. After all, if they hurt someone from the City Lord's manor, that would be the same as hurting the City Lord's face, which would be a huge problem. But Gu Qingshan didn't say a single word and attacked right away. How do I describe this attitude? A dog that bites doesn't bark? While Crow was thinking that, his expression became a bit more cautious. He slowly came back to his senses. The Wraith Realm people really wanted to cause trouble, and they were prepared. Gu Qingshan's unreasonable and direct method of attack was the correct way to go. All of you, shut up. The Wraith Elder suddenly spoke up. He took off his mask and stared at the sword on his neck like he was looking at a rare treasure, then spoke with a dry voice. The Lawbreaker, sword. This sword is the only bane. This Wraith leader turned to Gu Qingshan and spoke in a low voice. Fiend, I have a deal that you can't refuse, and I want to make it with you, ah? Gu Qingshan replied, her killing intent surging. At this point, the guards of the City Lord's manor had all arrived. All of you, stop. a guard captain shouted. Gu Qingshan immediately put her sword away. Seeing that the guards of the city lord's manor had arrived, the Wraith Realm people all turned to their leader. The leader waved his hand, gesturing for them to stop. The time had passed. The people had no choice but to remain silent. The prearranged display of strength had ended just like that. Anyone else who tries will be killed on the spot. A spellcaster dressed in a long robe descended from the sky and yelled. What exactly happened? He then turned to the two maids. His position seemed to be quite high, as the two maids immediately knelt down as soon as they saw him and quickly explained what happened. The caster looked at the Wraith Realm people, then at the two hitmen. If they didn't fight, then so be it. Hitmen, you can leave the manor now, he said. Crow laughed. Wraith Realm fellows, remember this well, the consequences won't be as simple as having a sword on your neck. He then pulled Gu Qingshan outside. Gu Qingshan glanced at those people, only to see that the Wraith leader was staring straight at her, seemingly pondering something. The lawbreaker, sword. You want my sword? Gu Qingshan coldly chuckled, then silently changed her title to Starflame War God. As the guards saw the two hitmen slowly walking away, just as they relaxed, the Wraith leader abruptly moved. He abruptly charged forward, abruptly ambushing one of the hitmen from behind. You're not allowed to leave your sword behind, he shouted. Gu Qingshan had been waiting for this moment for a long time. The earth sword appeared from the void of space and slashed. Countless black sword images erupted from the sword like a blooming lotus, circling around the Wraith leader to kill him. Secret art, a drawn shadow. Something strange happened. The black sword images abruptly disappeared and instead enveloped Gu Qingshan and Crow. It's causality law. Gu Qingshan, quickly dispel your sword's seal. The earth sword suddenly sent its voice. Seeing that, Gu Qingshan immediately dispelled her sword seal and put the earth sword back into her hand. So the enemy was relying on this causality law ability to reflect damage. This is a causality law that I've never heard of before. Gu Qingshan glanced at Crow, only to see that he also had a shocked expression on his face. That's right. The reason why the Wraith Realm humans tried to attack me and Crow earlier was most likely because they had just grasped this causality law, so they wanted to step on the Hitman Guild in front of the City Lord's manor and spread their name. The reason why I was able to injure him with my first strike was most likely due to the power of the Lawbreaker sword. No wonder this Wraith leader said that this sword was their only bane. Damn it, if I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have used to completely erase him. I would have used the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword to kill him instead. Gu Qingshan drew the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword again. But it was already too late. The Wraith leader's eyes regained clarity. From the void of space, 8 armored casters also appeared at the same time. They all swung their chains and threw them towards the Wraith leader. Seeing that, Gu Qingshan slowly loosened her grip on her sword. Chapter 1373. The chain was tossed forward, coiling around the Wraith leader. At this point, Starflame War God's title skill, Conquer, had already ended. The old man had also recovered. He looked at the metal chain flying towards him, and his expression changed. Don't do anything, he shouted at his subordinates. 8 iron chains bound him tightly. The old man turned to the caster in the sky and smiled bitterly. This old man was impolite this time. Please bring me to the city lord. I want to apologize to him in person. The rest of the Wraith Realm cultivators exchanged glances. How did the situation take such a sudden turn for the worse? Only to see the old man signaling them with his eyes, telling them to stay calm. Everyone could only stay still. In the sky, the leading caster sighed and shook his head. Elder Du, let's go to the city lord and await his judgment. With a wave of his hand, his 8 subordinates pulled the chain and brought the old man away. Before the old man disappeared, he stared deeply at Gu Qingshan. Fiend, I'll find you, he sent his voice. Gu Qingshan remained expressionless and didn't respond. At this point, the leading caster descended and stood in front of Gu Qingshan and Crow. You may leave, the responsibility for this matter does not lie with you, he said. Crow turned to the Wraith Realm cultivators and smirked. Very well, next time, if any scum dares to mess with us, they'll have to write their wills first. The Wraith Realm cultivators glared at him. If this wasn't Void City, you would have already been refined into ghosts, one of them couldn't help but say. Crow coldly laughed, then said, I'll wait for you, come to the Hitman Guild at any time, with 2 maids leading the way. Crow and Gu Qingshan left the City Lord's manor. As soon as they left the City Lord's manor, Crow called a blackbird, whispered a few words to it, then let it fly away. I'm going to tell the old man about this so that he won't be confused when the wraiths come knocking on his door in the future, Crow explained to Gu Qingshan. Under the shroud of night, the surroundings were shrouded in darkness. Although there weren't many people on the streets, every bar, casino, nightclub, and restaurant were filled with people. The nightlife had just begun. Crow's expression was solemn and contemplative, no longer in the mood to play around. Gu Qingshan analyzed. This time, we just happened to run into them. They only came up with this idea on the spur of the moment, wanting to use us to show off their strength. Crow nodded in agreement. I agree, but if others want to step on us, we can't just willingly become their stepping stones. Crow suddenly patted his shoulder and said, You need to be careful, your sword is able to counter them, so they might come looking for trouble later on. Gu Qingshan remained silent. Not very likely, but definitely. The person known as Elder Du would definitely come looking for him. For the 6 Paths Great Mountain Sword. Gu Qingshan's mind turned a bit, then purposefully appeared doubtful and asked. I heard that among the Samsara worlds, the tomb of myriad beasts had fused with more world fragments, so they should be stronger than the Wraith realm. But why do so few people from the tomb of myriad beasts come out, while the Wraith realm people are always roaming around Void City? Crow explained. The tomb of myriad beasts had fused with a great Samsara tomb, so apocalypses would frequently descend from the great tomb into their world, so they can't even take care of themselves. As for the Wraith realm. Crow shook his head, then muttered. Normally, I can't tell you, but since you've offended them for the sake of the guild's reputation, I don't mind telling you. The Wraith realm's strongest are life talismans, Yiksha masks, guise hexes, and artifacts causality law. Among them, life talismans are the most malicious, using the lives of living beings as the basis to perform unimaginable feats. As for the Yiksha masks, they all have the power to hit without fail, while their artifacts contain causality law. These 3 powers have already surpassed many worlds, even among first-rate worlds. They could be ranked among the top few, but they somehow managed to obtain some immortal crafts. Speaking of immortal crafts, Crow appeared doubtful. I don't really understand immortal crafts, but they seem to be the strongest spells of the Samsara. That means the Wraith realm is very strong. Very, very strong. You have to be careful. Gu Qingshan nodded in agreement. Back in the Yama Heavenly Realm, when she ran into Tsang Wuzhang's servant, he had a pair of golden chopsticks that indeed contained causality law, allowing him to block 3 attacks at once. Tsang Wuzhang had also used life talismans before. If he hadn't used them and had his subordinates die in his place, I would have already killed him. How strange. Why is the Wraith realm so strong? Gu Qingshan muttered in her mind as she followed Crow back to the Hitman Guild. Although it was already quite late, several staff members were already waiting in the Hitman Guild's lobby. Crow was called away by one of the staff members, saying that the guild master had summoned him. Qin was also waiting for Gu Qingshan. She brought Gu Qingshan to a secret room deep inside the guild. I've been waiting for you for a long time. The guild master has already agreed to your advancement, but there are a few procedures that need to be done, Qin said. Gu Qingshan sat down across from her, rubbing her hands. Why do I feel like there are more procedures after becoming unsolvable rank? Of course, Qin smiled. Unsolvable rank is only the beginning. Here, we need to sign an agreement first. Qin handed her a contract. Gu Qingshan received it, only to see the words written on it. I hereby swear that, unless it is absolutely necessary, I will not affect any world in battle, nor will I destroy any world. Below that was the signature area. Gu Qingshan was surprised. This is, Qin smiled. Everyone who officially joins Void City must sign this. Why? Gu Qingshan asked. Because everyone is very strong, it's too easy for them to destroy a few worlds with a wave of their hand. This is to restrain everyone from doing such a thing, Qin further explained. The apocalypse had already destroyed enough worlds. If we were to destroy worlds as well, then the worlds within the space vortex would gradually go extinct. The world origin and the laws of the worlds would also gradually weaken, affecting everyone in the process. Gu Qingshan gladly said, "All right, I'll sign this. Can I sign a code name?" "A code name is also bound by the contract." "That's fine," Qin replied. Gu Qingshan received the pen from Qin and signed the code name. Dragon King of Atrocity Jail. Qin looked at the code name in shock. "I forgot to mention, I just changed my code name," Gu Qingshan explained. It was now that Qin realized and said, "Then all of your previous files will need to be changed." "Wait a moment, I'll handle it." With a wave of her hand, several dozen files appeared in front of her. After quickly dealing with this, she drew a line in the void of space, and took out a large cardboard box. After becoming an unsolvable hitman, the guild had combined your fighting style and strength to make a comprehensive evaluation of you, then prepared a few things for you. Qin took out an ancient book, a set of black leather armor, a ring, and a card from the box. She introduced them one by one. Frowny face. "This is a manual that records the movement technique, flowing shadow steps. It can increase your agility. You can no longer use your Dragon Rider armor. You can now change into this darkness concealment armor. It's lighter and provides better defense." "How much stronger?" Gu Qingshan asked. "About 3 times stronger than the Dragon Rider armor," Qin replied. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but click her tongue. Qin then gave the ring to Gu Qingshan and said, "This ring can be used as a storage device. It can also be used to communicate with the guild and request reinforcements in times of emergency." She then took the card from the box and said, "This is your identity card. You can use it to read the guild's information, use the guild's exchange panel, and enter certain special training worlds of the guild." As Gu Qingshan looked through the exquisite items, he silently confirmed that it was exactly as Buttercup had said. Only by becoming an unsolvable hitman would one be accepted by the guild. He put the items away, put on the leather armor, and picked up the Flowing Shadow Steps manual. "This is a body technique manual. If I don't want it, can I exchange it for another one?" he asked. On the War God UI, the War God skills icon lit up. Lines of glowing text appeared on the War God skills icon. Frowny face discovered secret art. Flowing shadow steps. This is an hitman's assassination movement technique, capable of manifesting 7 to 8 flowing shadows that make it impossible to distinguish the real body. Would you like to pay 100,000 soul points to learn this movement technique? Gu Qingshan immediately replied. Yes. A warm flow emerged from the secret art, flowed up his arm, and converged in his thought sea. Ting. You've learned shadow steps. Hearing him say that, Qin nodded. We've also considered that possibility. If you don't want to learn this secret art, the guild also has a spare secret art for you to choose from. She received the Flowing Shadow Steps manual from Gu Qingshan's hand, then took out another secret art. You're a sword-wielding hitman. After analyzing your fighting style, we chose this cultivation-type secret art from the guild's treasury. It's the highest grade secret art in the treasury. It should be able to increase your fighting strength. I hope that you'll accept it. After all, secret arts are very hard to obtain, and this is the only one suitable for you in the entire treasury, Qin patiently explained. Gu Qingshan asked, If I choose Flowing Shadow Steps, I won't be able to obtain this secret art? Qin replied, No, you can use your points to exchange for it. Gu Qingshan received the secret art. War God skills. Once again flashed on the War God UI. Lines of glowing text appeared. Frowny face discovered sword art secret art. Desolation. This is a secret art. You must pay 800,000 soul points to learn this secret art. If you don't want to spend soul points with your current level of swordsmanship, you'll only need 10 days of hard work to learn this secret art. Gu Qingshan shook his head. It's not that I don't want to put in the effort, it's actually quite interesting to slowly learn swordsmanship. Unfortunately, what I lack the most right now is time. Soul points is secondary. After all, I killed the judge of living beings' fate and obtained 300 million soul points. I'll pay, Gu Qingshan replied. A warm flow flowed from the secret art into his thought sea. New lines of glowing text appeared. Frowny face. You've learned secret art. Desolation is secret art. Desolation. When you parry an enemy's attack, you can immediately activate this sword to send them flying. Description. When the enemy is sent flying, the power of your next 3 consecutive strikes will be doubled from the previous strike. What a good swordsmanship! Gu Qingshan was overjoyed. Who would have thought I'd get such an excellent secret art by joining the Hitman Guild? Qin clapped her hands and casually said, All right, I've told you everything I need to. Do you want to accept an assassination mission? No, I'm going to visit a few friends first, Gu Qingshan replied. Very well, contact me if you need anything. Qin smiled and left the secret room. Gu Qingshan sat still for a while, then suddenly muttered, Tisich, for daring to covet my sword, I don't want you to live for even a minute longer. Behind him, 4 swords appeared from the void of space, giving off a faint woo-woo noise. Chapter 1374. Many things happened that night. Originally, they were just going to complete a promotion quest, but they ran into Crow on their way back, so to celebrate, the 2 of them went straight for a drink. It was supposed to be a drinking party, but it turned out to be a divination party. Originally, he only wanted to perform divination, but ended up running into a Wraith Realm cultivator in the City Lord's manor, causing them to discover the 6 Paths Great Mountain Sword. Without even thinking about it, the Wraith Realm's Elder Du would definitely bring people here to steal this sword. If that was the case, then he couldn't blame himself. The orange cat sat on top of the city wall, silently pondering as he observed the direction of the City Lord's manor. The deep night sky hung low, completely concealing its figure. Sumeru Thaumaturgy, ghostly shadow of night. Buttercup's mark had been removed, so no one would be able to detect the existence of this orange tabby. It waited silently. It had always been very patient, especially when it was preparing to kill. The night breeze blew gently. The orange cat continued to stare at the direction of the City Lord's manor without shifting his gaze away. Finally, the main gate of the City Lord's mansion opened. 7 to 8 people wearing Yiksha masks walked out. Elder Du took the lead, and the others followed behind him. For some reason, Elder Du subconsciously looked towards the nearest city wall. In the dark of the night, the towering city walls were like an iron curtain, protecting the city. Even though the orange cat was sitting there, Elder Du couldn't see anything. Elder Du didn't know why he was looking at the city wall. He subconsciously shook his head and said, Let's go. We'll go to the Assassin's Guild immediately. Sir, should we prepare for battle? The subordinate asked. No, I want to apologize to the chairman of the Hitman Guild in person and give them some gifts while I'm at it. Then, I want to discuss a deal with that devil, the Poison Elder said. His subordinates fell silent. Sir, by now, everyone must have received the news and found out that we just had a conflict with the Hitman Guild. If we apologize right now, wouldn't that be a loss of face for our Wraith Realm? Someone cautiously asked. Elder Du was taken aback. Face is nothing. For that sword, no matter how much I pay, it's worth it. His voice suddenly became cold. Of course, if that demon doesn't know how to appreciate my kindness, I have my own ways to deal with it. Before his voice died away, the cat on the city wall had disappeared. It abruptly appeared several dozen meters away from the Wraith Realm group. The orange cat observed these people with a contemplative look in his eyes. Even though these people were running forward, each of them held a life talisman in their hands and released a circular defensive array together. Once someone approached them, they would immediately be detected by the talisman array. Although the orange cat couldn't understand this talisman formation, with his understanding of formations, he could roughly tell that Elder Dew was the eye of the formation. His every move, even a thought, could turn this talisman formation into an extremely powerful killing formation. Although I can turn invisible in my orange cat form, if I were to charge in an attack, I'd have to turn back into my human form, which would be noticed by Elder Dew right away. So, how? The orange cat silently followed these people and patiently observed them. It didn't find it annoying to kill, and it wasn't too late to take a life. Its calm gaze swept across everyone. These Wraith Realm humans all wore different Yiksha masks. In other words, they could release at least 8 Gai's hexes in battle. Other than the defensive causality law, they also had life talismans and other defensive artifacts. They seemed to be moving loosely, but in truth, as long as Elder Dew willed it, these people could erupt with overwhelming fighting strength at any moment. It's almost impossible to kill them all at once, unless Gu Qingshan pondered for a bit and finally confirmed the answer. Unless they didn't notice me at all. Furthermore, no matter how short the battle is, I can't let them activate the talisman formation. To achieve this, I must first take care of Elder Dew, because the entire talisman formation is under his control. The orange cat thought for a bit, then silently called out to the swords in his mind. Luobingli, Earth, Chao-Yin sword, the main fighting force will be Shanu and me. The two of you will guard my left and right, block any enemy, while I activate my secret art. Got it, Luobingli, the Earth sword, and the Chao-Yin sword all responded. Shanu, we might need to use a new method of combat. The orange cat then told the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword. Yes, I'll listen to Gongzi, Shana replied. Her tone wasn't as cold and aloof as it was before, instead, it sounded a bit more obedient. The orange cat couldn't tell at all, so he simply wagged his tail and continued. When I use my sword seal, you will have to cooperate with me, because this is the first time I'm using this position to wield the sword, so I might not be able to use enough strength. Ah? What does first time I'm using this position to wield the sword mean, Gongzi? Shanu was completely confused. Because I can't expose myself, The orange cat carefully explained everything. Finally, he had finalized all of the details. The Wraith Realm group had already made it halfway there. Only 2 more streets to go before they reached the Hitman Guild. The orange cat arrived at the end of the street ahead of them. He crouched on the ground, squinting his eyes as he watched the Wraith Realm group approaching. The distance between the two sides was getting closer and closer, soon reaching a few hundred meters. I'm going, the orange cat said in a low voice. Got it, The 4 swords responded at once. At the very next moment, the orange cat reached out his tail and caught the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword from the void of space. As soon as the sword caught his tail, the orange cat disappeared. Divine skill, Shadow Shift. When he obtained this divine skill, the war god Ui had a description. This skill is a low-grade divine skill, no living being is able to resist it, no formations, barriers, or even secret arts would be able to stop it. It was thanks to this divine skill that he managed to trap and kill Qi Yen last time. And right now, even though these Wraith Realm people were being protected by talisman formations, a Shadow Shift was able to ignore all obstacles. In the blink of an eye, the orange cat had switched places with Elder Dew. The orange cat arrived at the center of the group, while Elder Dew had been switched out. As soon as Elder Dew left, the talisman formations immediately dissipated. Right at this moment, the orange cat moved his tail and abruptly activated his sword seal. Secret art, full moon consecutive slashes. This was a sword seal that both the Orange Cat and Shanu were using at the same time. A white crescent sword phantom drew a full moon in the air, giving off a blinding light in the darkness of the night. What? Damn it, someone! Hitman! What's going on? The group of people shouted as they unleashed various colorful defensive techniques, but their swords were broken. Everything was useless. The sharp sword phantoms sliced the enemies in half, splattering blood, but the Orange Cat didn't even bother to look at them. He raised his front paw and threw a punch at Elder Dew, who was several hundred meters away. Ethereal, a grand mountain. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. As soon as Elder Dew was teleported away, he only had time to perform a single attack. But as soon as he unleashed it, a mocking woo-woo resounded from the void of space. Against that attack, a similar technique manifested and clashed head-on. Boom! A thunderous sound reverberated in every direction. Under the power of this technique, the entire street was blown to pieces. In Void City, every building and street was reinforced by a unique power, so attacking one of them was equivalent to attacking the defensive capabilities of Void City as a whole. But this technique still managed to destroy over half of the street. Amidst the loud explosion, Elder Dew's expression changed. My attack didn't work. Not good, I need to leave right now. The Orange Cat's long-distance punch had arrived. Elder Dew didn't have time to do anything else as all of his thoughts were shattered. He froze in place, unable to move an inch. A miraculous scene occurred. Although his thoughts had been shattered, he seemed to know how everything would end. Demon. Devil, how did you do it? Elder Dew struggled and muttered in disbelief. The Orange Cat glanced at him, then swung his tail and tossed the Six Paths Great Mountain sword forward. Meow meow, he coldly called out. The ice-cold sword spun in front of Elder Dew, then abruptly stopped. A female voice resounded in Elder Dew's ears. Gongzi said, I can't tell you. Before she finished, the sword had already circled around Elder Dew's neck and drew a cold arc in the air. In the darkness of the night, a head was sent flying. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.